What if the man who seemed to hold the future in his hands suddenly vanished? Elon Musk, the visionary entrepreneur whose name is synonymous with innovation and risk, disappeared without warning on what was supposed to be the biggest day for one of his companies. In the sprawling, glass-walled conference room of SpaceX headquarters in Hawthorne, California, tension hung thick in the air like the static before a storm. Engineers and executives were mid-discussion when the call came through: Elon was gone. No note, no explanation, no clue. Panic rippled across the room. Deadlines loomed, investors demanded answers, and the media was already smelling blood. How could the man who had promised to put humanity on Mars simply vanish? Was this just another one of his eccentric breaks, or something far darker? Hit subscribe and leave a comment with where you're watching from. This story might just spark a new beginning. What's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough? Those words buzzed through the hallways as the team scrambled to pick up the pieces. For years, Elon had been known for his uncanny ability to disappear whenever work became overwhelming. He would retreat to some quiet corner, a cabin in the woods, or a hotel room, alone with his thoughts. Then, after days or weeks, he would return with a strategy no one could have anticipated, a plan so brilliant it pulled his companies from the brink of disaster. But this time felt different. This time, there was no word, no sign of where he'd gone or when he might come back. The board was growing restless. Stock prices dipped sharply. Tesla's factories stalled. SpaceX's rockets faced critical delays. The entire ecosystem Elon had built, a delicate balance of chaos and genius, was unraveling in his absence. His closest team members, usually united by their faith in his vision, now found themselves divided. Some blamed the pressure, others the man who set impossible standards, and a few whispered about the toll his relentless drive had taken on his mind. Outside the sterile halls of corporate power, the world watched and wondered, what happens when the man behind the future disappears? What happens when the genius who seemed unstoppable suddenly reveals his fragility? This story is not just about Elon Musk. It is about what happens when the pressure to succeed becomes unbearable, when the weight of expectations crushes even the strongest among us. It is about resilience, sacrifice, and the human spirit's capacity to find light in the darkest moments. The clock was ticking. Teams were desperate for answers. Investors were pulling out. And somewhere, far from the prying eyes of the media, Elon Musk wrestled with his own demons, alone, uncertain if he would ever return to the world that needed him so desperately. This is the beginning of a journey through chaos and hope, loss and discovery, fear and triumph. It is a story that will challenge what you think you know about success, leadership, and the price of genius. So wherever you are, wherever you're watching from, ask yourself, what's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough? Because in the coming chapters, you'll see how one man's disappearance turned into a spark that could ignite a new beginning, or signal the end of an era. Elon Musk is gone, and everything is starting to unravel. The question is, will the world fall apart without him? Or will something even greater emerge from the chaos? Stay with me as we unravel this story together. Hit subscribe and leave a comment with where you're watching from. This story might just spark a new beginning. What's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough? Elon Musk was not born a genius. He was forged, bit by bit, through loneliness, obsession, and a mind that never quite fit the world around him. Growing up in Pretoria, South Africa, in the 1980s, Elon was a pale, quiet boy with a stutter and eyes always half lost in thought. While other kids played soccer in dusty schoolyards, Elon buried himself in books, encyclopedias, science fiction novels, and, when he got his first computer, lines of code. He taught himself programming by the age of 12 and sold his first game, a simple space-themed creation, for $500. But the real world wasn't as kind to Elon as the digital realms he escaped into. At school, he was bullied relentlessly. Once, a group of older boys threw him down a flight of stairs and beat him until he blacked out. For weeks afterward, he couldn't walk properly. The emotional scars ran deeper. He rarely spoke about the abuse, but it hardened something inside him. It gave him a singular clarity: he would never be at anyone's mercy again. His father, Elon Musk, was a complicated man, charismatic and brilliant, but also cold and domineering. Elon's relationship with him left a wound that never fully healed. He once described his father as a terrible human being and refused to elaborate. But those who knew Elon best understood, whatever pain he carried, it started at home. His mother, Musk, was his anchor. A model, nutritionist, and single mom with 3 children, she supported Elon's curiosity, even when she didn't understand it. She let him disappear for hours to tinker with projects, build rockets out of scrap, or get lost in theories about colonizing Mars. She was the first to tell him he wasn't weird, he was different, and different could be powerful. At 17, Elon left South Africa for Canada, and eventually the United States, chasing bigger dreams and freer skies. He studied physics and economics, not because he wanted a traditional career, but because he believed those fields held the secrets to the universe. He didn't want to work for someone else. He wanted to shape the future. Elon's early ventures, Zip2, X.com, and eventually PayPal, weren't glamorous. He slept on office couches, showered at the YMCA, and coded for days without stopping. When PayPal was acquired, he became a millionaire overnight. But money wasn't the goal. It never was. Elon poured his fortune into dreams others called impossible: electric cars, reusable rockets, tunnels under cities, neural implants. "I'd rather be wrong trying something crazy than right doing something boring," he once said. And yet, under the bravado, there was always something quieter, more fragile. Elon's mind never slowed down. He'd text ideas at 3 a.m., walk out of meetings mid-sentence to chase a thought, or stare blankly at whiteboards for hours. Stress didn't just wear on him, it consumed him. When pressure peaked, he'd vanish. Sometimes for a day, sometimes for a week. Always alone, always without notice. These disappearances were his way of surviving. He'd take a backpack, a notebook, maybe a satellite phone, and disappear into a cabin, desert, or coastal cliffside. And he would think. Just think. Then he would return with a plan no one else saw coming: faster rockets, mass-market electric cars, brain-computer interfaces. They called it genius. But it came at a cost. Relationships didn't last. Marriages broke under the strain. His kids loved him, but they didn't always see him. Friends came and went. Even among those closest to him, few truly understood how deeply lonely he was. Elon wasn't built for balance. He thrived in extremes. Working 120-hour weeks, sleeping on factory floors, flying between continents in a day. The fire that drove him also burned him. His team learned to adapt. When he disappeared, they waited. When he raged, they absorbed it. Because when he returned, everything changed. He inspired loyalty and fear in equal measure. Some called him a tyrant, others called him a prophet. But all agreed, he was irreplaceable. And yet, for all his brilliance, Elon was human. He felt the weight of expectation. He saw the headlines, read the criticisms, and sometimes, late at night, questioned if he was losing control. His biggest fear wasn't failure, it was irrelevance. That the world would move on without him. That everything he built would collapse without his mind at the center. That's what made this disappearance so terrifying. It wasn't just another retreat. It came without warning. Without prep. Without goodbye. And the people closest to him weren't just worried about the company. They were worried about him. For all his mystery, Elon had patterns. This time, those patterns were broken. He'd recently confided in one of his advisors, a fictional composite character named Rachel Nguyen, a sharp and unflinching COO at SpaceX, that he felt the pressure mounting in a way he hadn't since PayPal. "Sometimes I feel like I'm holding up the entire world with 2 fingers," he'd said. "And if I stop for even a second, it all falls." Rachel had seen him spiral before, over missed deadlines, mission failures, even when a prototype exploded on live TV. But she'd also seen him bounce back, stronger and stranger than before. She wasn't sure this time. Just a week earlier, he'd been pacing for hours on the Starbase launch site in Texas, rambling about radiation shielding and life cycles on Mars. He hadn't slept in 2 days. His voice cracked mid-sentence. "They think it's all about the rockets," he said. "It's not. It's about survival. I don't want to escape Earth. I want us to deserve to stay here. And if not, we need a plan." Then he'd gone quiet. He left a meeting early. And that was the last anyone saw of him. Rachel tried everything. Satellite pings. Check-ins with private pilots. Calls to the secure line only he and his assistant used. Nothing. And so, while the world speculated, had he cracked, had he fled, was he alive, those who knew him understood, Elon Musk wasn't running away from the world. He was running towards something only he could see. The question was whether he'd make it back this time. Or whether, in chasing the future, he'd finally lost himself. It began with a missed call. Then a skipped meeting. Then 2. Elon's absence was dismissed at first, brushed off with half-laughs and shoulder shrugs. "He's probably in his thinking cave," someone said. "Give it a day," another added. But the day passed. Then 2 more. Then a week. The mood inside Tesla's headquarters in Palo Alto shifted from confusion to unease. At SpaceX in Hawthorne, engineers kept glancing at the upper floors where Elon's office stood dark and untouched. His assistant, Lydia, tight-lipped and pale, deflected questions. "He's traveling," she said once, eyes flicking sideways. But no one believed her. Elon didn't just disappear in the middle of an investor crisis. Not with quarterly numbers about to be released. Not with the Mars cargo mission 5 weeks from launch. Not with the board already breathing down the company's neck after last month's battery plant explosion in Nevada. Whispers turned into theories. Some claimed he'd been hospitalized, burnout, exhaustion, maybe even a breakdown. Others insisted he was off-grid, somewhere in northern Canada or the Gobi Desert, collecting his thoughts like he always did. But the timeline didn't make sense. Elon always left breadcrumbs, even if he didn't realize it, notes scribbled on napkins, cryptic tweets, sudden money movements. This time there was silence. No transactions. No login activity. No posts. No GPS. The man who had once live-streamed his rocket landing from a barge in the Atlantic had gone completely dark. The SpaceX team tried to keep moving forward, but cracks began to show. Without Elon, the executive team fractured into factions, those loyal to Rachel Nguyen, who had stepped up unofficially to hold things together, and those rallying behind Mark Danvers, a slick, number-driven CFO who believed Elon's time had passed. "We need leadership," Mark said during a closed-door meeting. "Not a ghost. Not a cult of personality." Rachel pushed back hard. "This isn't about a personality. This is about momentum. Without Elon, we don't get the buy-in, we don't get the vision, and we sure as hell don't get the investors." But Mark was gaining ground. He began whispering to board members. Whispering that maybe it was time for a formal review of control. Maybe even a temporary CEO appointment. After all, Tesla's shares had dropped 9% in 5 days. The Department of Energy was questioning the terms of their new subsidy package. NASA had postponed a joint press conference. The markets didn't care if Elon was a genius, they cared that he was missing. Meanwhile, inside Tesla's energy division, engineers clashed over production schedules. A major battery deployment in Arizona fell behind, and the client, a city utility, threatened to cancel the contract. Layoffs were whispered about. Senior developers began updating their resumes. All of it compounded by media frenzy. Cable news spun his disappearance as a symbol of tech's instability. Pundits speculated wildly, was he burned out? Had he been ousted by the board? Was he staging some PR stunt? Elon's face was plastered across headlines, each photo chosen for maximum drama, eyes wild, hair mussed, mouth frozen mid-sentence. And then came the leak. A confidential report, meant only for board review, was leaked to a financial blogger. It outlined a string of safety failures at SpaceX over the past 9 months. Minor, but damning. The kind of data that fed narratives. The kind of data that broke trust. Rachel stared at the leak report late one night in her office, coffee cold, hands clenched so tight her knuckles turned white. She knew what this meant. The wolves were circling. Mark Danvers would seize this. The board would demand action. If Elon didn't return, soon, the empire he built might not be there when he did. Meanwhile, inside Elon's inner circle, emotions ran high. Tong Zhao, a propulsion lead and one of Elon's earliest hires, felt helpless. He's never gone this long without saying something, he told Rachel. Even in 2018, when that launch failed and everyone thought he was done, he still checked in. Rachel nodded. She remembered that week. Elon had vanished into the desert outside Las Vegas and came back with the idea for the Falcon Light, a mid-weight, rapid-deploy booster that would go on to become a cornerstone of the company. But that time, he had left a message. This time, nothing. No satellite call. No note. No trail. Rachel made the decision to activate the protocol Elon had once jokingly called Plan Z. It was a search routine, built more for fun than practicality, a combination of geofencing, transaction tracking, and digital behavior modeling. It pinged against hotel bookings, flight manifests, border crossings, encrypted apps. For 2 days it returned nothing. On the third day, a ping. A hotel in British Columbia had registered a guest using a pseudonym known only to a handful of SpaceX staff. Rachel didn't wait. She chartered a jet and left that night, not even telling the board. If it was him, they had hope. If it wasn't, they were screwed. Back in California, the unraveling continued. Tesla's AI division hit a wall when a key partner, OptiCore Systems, pulled out of a neural net integration deal. Their CEO cited strategic differences, but insiders knew the truth: they had lost faith in Elon's return. The mood at Neuralink was worse. Rumors swirled that FDA approval on a new implant was in jeopardy. Without Elon there to pitch, charm, and persuade regulators, doors that once opened easily now closed. Morale cratered. And on social media, the narrative had shifted from curiosity to concern to mockery. Memes of Elon in a tinfoil hat flooded Reddit. A TikTok trend called #WhereIsElon showed users pretending to be him in increasingly absurd scenarios, on Mars, in a submarine, at Burning Man. But to those who knew him best, the jokes hit too close. This wasn't just about a CEO going dark. It was about a man who had spent years carrying the weight of too many dreams, who had built too much on his own shoulders, and who now, maybe, had finally collapsed under it all. Rachel didn't want to believe that. As her jet soared northward, cutting across clouds like a silver needle, she stared out at the endless sky and wondered what she would find. Because if it was Elon, and he was okay, they could fix this. If he wasn't, if the man they all depended on had truly broken, then everything he'd built might go down with him. Below her, the vast forests of Canada stretched for miles. Somewhere out there, she hoped, the man with the future in his hands was still holding on. The rental car Rachel picked up at the tiny regional airport was caked in mud, its heater wheezing like an old man trying to catch his breath. The roads were half-paved, mostly gravel and snowmelt, winding through a dense wilderness of pine, birch, and clouded sky. Her phone had no signal. The GPS, outdated and glitchy, blinked uncertainly as it tried to guide her deeper into the unknown. A handwritten address in her notebook was the only thing anchoring her, a lodge that didn't appear on Google Maps, paid in cash under a name only 5 people on Earth knew was an alias Elon used when he needed to disappear completely. Rachel glanced at the rearview mirror, not for traffic, but for clarity. She hadn't slept more than 2 hours in 3 days. Her inbox had collapsed under pressure from the board, the press, and now federal regulators. She was still wearing the same blazer from the last SpaceX review meeting, only now with mud on the sleeves and coffee stains on the cuff. But none of that mattered. What mattered was finding Elon. Not just for the companies, not just for the future, but for him, for the friend who had once told her, in a rare moment of vulnerability, "I don't want to go out the same way I came in, alone and misunderstood." It was just past noon when she reached the cabin. Perched at the edge of a frozen lake, it looked like a postcard from another century. Smoke curled from the chimney. A single solar panel jutted from the roof, half covered in snow. The air was so still, it felt like time had folded in on itself. She stepped out of the car and stood there for a long moment, her breath visible, heart pounding. Then the door creaked open. Elon Musk stood in the threshold, barefoot, wearing a wrinkled flannel shirt and thermal pants. His hair was unkempt, his face thinner than she remembered, but his eyes, sharp, focused, tired, met hers with a strange calm. "Took you long enough," he said, as if they were resuming a conversation paused just minutes ago. Rachel didn't speak. She just walked up the steps, pushed past him, and stood in the center of the room, arms crossed. "Do you have any idea what's happening out there?" she said finally. "Yeah," he answered quietly. "That's why I'm in here." The cabin was sparse. A desk with notebooks and open sketches. A cot. A half-stocked kitchen. Walls covered in pinned diagrams, rockets, supply chains, city layouts, Martian soil composition. Some sketches were old. Others had been drawn in what looked like charcoal, burned wood, or maybe pen ink. It was like stepping into the inside of his mind, made physical. Rachel turned to face him. "You left without a word. You vanished. You didn't even tell me. Not even a message. Do you know what it looks like to the world right now? Do you care?" Elon didn't flinch. "If I had told you, you would have tried to stop me." "You're damn right I would have." He walked over to the desk and picked up a drawing. "I needed space to think. Not brainstorm. Think. Really think. Because we're at the edge of something, and I don't know if I'm leading us forward or driving us off a cliff." Rachel blinked. For a moment, she saw not the titan of industry, not the man mythologized by headlines, but a tired human being. Someone who had held too many visions for too long. "Then let someone help," she said. "You're not a one-man show anymore. You don't have to be." Elon smiled faintly. "That's the thing. I think I always have been." He gestured at the room. "Every big decision. Every pivot. Every leap. It all comes down to one mind. Not a team. Not a committee. Just mine." "And what happens when that mind stops functioning the way it used to?" Rachel didn't answer. The silence stretched, filled only by the crackle of the fire and the distant call of a raven in the trees. Elon finally spoke again. "Do you know what this is?" He held up a blueprint, one Rachel hadn't seen before. "It's a design for a sustainable habitat. But not just for Mars. For Earth. Climate collapse scenarios. Rapid migration. Micro-cities. It's adaptable. Resilient. But no one will take it seriously because I designed it." "That's not true." "Isn't it?" he said, eyes sharp. "You've seen how they treat me. When I succeed, I'm a genius. When I stumble, I'm a madman. The same people who cheer me on are the first to call me unstable the moment I do something unexpected. Rachel nodded slowly. They're scared. Because you're not predictable. Because they don't understand how your mind works. But that's never stopped you before. Elon sat down, rubbing his temples. It's different now. The pressure is heavier. The stakes are bigger. The margin for error has evaporated. And for the first time, I'm starting to wonder if I'm the right person to carry this to the finish line. Rachel stepped closer. Then share the weight. Let the rest of us carry some of it. You built the future, Elon, but if you break yourself trying to protect it, it'll fall anyway. For a long time, he said nothing. Then, almost reluctantly, he looked up. I need 2 more days. Here. Alone. Then I'll come back. But only if we do it differently this time. I can't keep being the center of everything. We decentralize. Delegate more. Take the risk of letting others lead. Even if it means they mess up. Even if it means I'm not in control of every decision. Deal, Rachel said without hesitation. But no more disappearing without a trace. If you need space, you say it. No cryptic exits. Elon gave a tired smile. Deal. As she left the cabin and got into the car, Rachel felt a cautious sense of relief. It wasn't over. The mess back home was still burning. But Elon was alive. He was thinking clearly. And he had something in that cabin, in those sketches, that might change the game again. The road back would be rough. She knew Mark Danvers wouldn't go quietly. The board would demand proof, results, maybe even blood. But for the first time in days, she felt like they had a chance. Elon had gone into the unknown. And now, maybe, he was ready to come back with more than just a plan. Maybe this time, he was coming back with a way to build a future no one else dared to imagine. The private jet touched down at a quiet Los Angeles airfield under the cover of night. No cameras. No statements. No grand return. Elon stepped onto the tarmac in a black hoodie and worn jeans, looking more like a sleep-deprived coder than the man the world had obsessed over for weeks. Rachel stayed close beside him, shielding him not just from the media but from the weight of expectation that waited behind every locked door and corporate boardroom. They didn't go straight to headquarters. Instead, they drove along the darkened coast, the hum of the electric SUV filling the silence between them. Elon said little, but his eyes scanned the skyline, distant and calculating. Finally, he spoke. I used to dream about building this city into something smarter. Underground transit, solar everywhere, AI traffic coordination. But now I look at it and wonder if it's all noise. If I just added more noise. Rachel didn't respond. She knew better than to interrupt when he was unraveling thoughts that had been winding inside his mind for too long. They arrived at a secure compound near Hawthorne, a meeting space rarely used except in times of crisis. Inside, a dozen people waited, executives from Tesla, SpaceX, Neuralink, and the Boring Company. Each wore a different expression. Relief, caution, frustration, hope. No one dared speak first. Elon stood at the front of the room, silent, his face drawn, but his posture upright. When he finally spoke, it wasn't a command. It was a confession. I left because I couldn't breathe anymore, he began, voice low. Every room I walked into had expectations hanging in the air like poison. Everyone looked to me for answers. But I didn't have any. He paused, letting the words land. You think I disappear because I'm eccentric. That it's some genius ritual. But it's not. It's survival. My brain doesn't shut off. It loops. It obsesses. And when the world gets too loud, it feels like I'm drowning in it. No one moved. No one dared to. Elon's voice didn't crack, but something inside it trembled. Every time a rocket lands, they call me a hero. But they didn't see me on the factory floor, screaming into a phone because someone welded the wrong support brace. They didn't see me in the hospital getting my lungs scanned because I hadn't slept in 3 days and thought I was having a heart attack. They didn't see me breaking down in the back of a Model S in a parking garage because I thought I was failing everyone. His eyes swept the room. I'm not bulletproof. I never was. I've just been too stubborn to admit it. A long silence followed. Then Rachel spoke, softly but firmly. You don't owe us perfection. Just presence. And honesty. Elon nodded slowly. That's why I came back. Because I realized something while I was gone. If I keep holding this all myself, it breaks me. If I let it go, maybe we build something that lasts beyond me. He turned to the whiteboard and began to draw. New structures. A revised power hierarchy. Distributed leadership models. Think tank protocols. Emergency management systems that didn't rely on a single person. It was, as always, brilliant. But now it was grounded not in ego, but in necessity. I don't want to be the bottleneck, he said. From now on, no more single points of failure. Not me. Not anyone. As the meeting broke and teams fanned out to implement the changes, Rachel stayed behind. She found Elon staring out a tall window overlooking the launch test pad. You did good in there, she said. He didn't look away. They still think I'm broken. Maybe. But they also know you're human. And they needed to see that. He turned toward her, exhaustion carved into his features. Do you think I'm still the right person to lead this? Rachel looked him straight in the eyes. Only if you stop trying to do it alone. For the first time in weeks, maybe months, Elon smiled, not a performance, not a press-ready smirk, but something small and real. That's fair. But just as the air seemed to lighten, just as the road ahead started to feel walkable again, a call came through. Rachel's phone lit up. She answered it without thinking, her smile fading fast as she listened. When she hung up, her face was pale. It's Neuralink, she said. The FDA just pulled their approval for human trials. They cited concerns about executive instability. And the leak from last week? There's more. Internal footage. You, pacing. Talking to yourself. Something from your lab office. It's already with the press. Elon closed his eyes. They think I've lost it. Rachel nodded. They think you're dangerous. Then we don't have time to feel sorry for me, he said, already reaching for his tablet. We have to move. Now. And just like that, the fire reignited. But it wasn't manic. It wasn't desperate. It was measured, deliberate, and sharp. The comeback wouldn't be about PR spin or flashy product launches. It would be about transparency. About showing the world that genius and mental health weren't mutually exclusive. That leadership wasn't about pretending to be unbreakable, it was about proving you could bend without falling apart. Within hours, Elon was recording a direct message to the public. No script. No filters. Just him, in front of a plain background. He talked about the pressure. The expectations. The toll. He didn't deny it, he explained it. The future doesn't come without cost, he said. But we don't have to pay that cost alone. I've been wrong in the past about how much one person can carry. But I'm learning. And I'm here. Not just to lead. To listen. To heal. By morning, the video had gone viral. Support flooded in from unexpected places. Scientists, engineers, mental health advocates, parents, students. The press still circled like sharks, but the narrative had begun to shift. Not weakness. Not collapse. Growth. Humanity. The truth wasn't always polished. But this time, it was powerful. And in that moment, Elon Musk wasn't just a man trying to fix the future. He was a man learning how to live in the present. The unraveling had begun with silence. Now, maybe, healing could begin with a voice. And as teams scrambled to contain the fallout, and rivals sharpened their knives, one thing had become clear: Elon Musk was back. Different. Scarred. But back. And this time, he wasn't alone. The fallout from Elon's public confession didn't vanish overnight, but it changed shape. For the first time in years, the media didn't treat his vulnerability as a flaw but as a signal, proof that the man behind the rockets and batteries and tunnels was human after all. For some, it confirmed their worst suspicions. For others, it ignited a new kind of respect. But inside the companies, where pressure didn't wait for headlines to cool, the real work began. Elon walked into Tesla's design lab 3 days after his return, no entourage, no camera crews, just a reusable notebook in hand and the bags under his eyes still visible. The room fell silent when he entered. The engineers froze mid-discussion, unsure if they should resume or salute. Elon looked around, nodded once, and then did something that surprised everyone. He sat at the end of the table, not the head. "All right," he said. "Catch me up." The team lead, a young woman named Serena Beck, cleared her throat and launched into the briefing. New battery prototype. Reduced cost. Faster cooling rate. But resistance from suppliers, ongoing legal hurdles, and morale issues were slowing progress. Elon didn't interrupt. He didn't interject with a tangent about lithium sourcing or propose a radical workaround halfway through. He listened. And when Serena finished, he simply said, "You're doing the right thing. Let me know where I can unblock you." That was it. Simple. Grounded. But for those in the room, it marked a turning point. Elon Musk, the man who once slept under his desk to oversee line inspections and scolded teams for missing 1 mm tolerances, was stepping into a new version of himself. Not less intense, just more deliberate. It wasn't easy. There were still flare-ups. A conference call with the Department of Energy turned combative when Elon refused to delay a subsidy timeline. An executive from Neuralink confronted him in a hallway over the FDA freeze, demanding an apology for being blindsided. And the board wasn't exactly waiting with open arms. They wanted assurances. They wanted stability. Most of all, they wanted predictability, something Elon had never promised. Rachel helped translate his vision into the language the board understood. PowerPoint decks. Organizational charts. Phased delegation. She worked around the clock, acting as both shield and translator, making sure the brilliance didn't get buried beneath fear. In quiet moments, Elon would glance at her with something like gratitude, though he rarely said it aloud. Instead, he poured his energy into action. He began implementing the leadership distribution model he'd sketched out in the cabin. Each major division, energy, transportation, space, biotech, got 2 deputies, 1 technical, 1 operational. Decision-making was pushed downward. Elon still reviewed major milestones, but he no longer demanded to approve every screw or spreadsheet. He created what he called ideation corridors, spaces, physical and digital, where teams could propose radical ideas without red tape. Innovation dies in hierarchy, he told one team. I want friction. Controlled friction. Then there were the psychological protocols. For the first time, the companies brought in wellness professionals, not to preach yoga and mindfulness, but to actively monitor the emotional health of high-performance teams. It was subtle. Opt-in. But the shift in culture was undeniable. People stayed late because they wanted to, not because they feared retribution. Elon led by example. He still worked absurd hours, but he took scheduled breaks. He started journaling. He spoke to a therapist via encrypted channel twice a week. And while he never called it self-care, he hated the term, he modeled balance in his own intense, cerebral way. The first major test came with the Falcon M mission, a crucial cargo launch to the Lunar Gateway. It was high stakes. International partners. Delayed twice. If it failed, it would jeopardize years of credibility. On the morning of the launch, Elon stood in the control room, not at the front console but in the back corner, sipping tea instead of pacing. Rachel stood beside him. "You okay?" she asked quietly. "Not at all," he said. "But that's probably a good sign." The rocket cleared the tower without a hitch. Stage separation perfect. Payload deployment clean. The room erupted in restrained cheers. Elon nodded once and whispered, "We're still in the game." But it wasn't just about the launch. It was about the process, the fact that Elon hadn't been the one to give the green light. The team had. They'd reviewed the data, assessed the risks, and made the call. And it worked. Later that night, in a dimly lit war room at SpaceX, Elon debriefed the team. "You didn't need me to save it," he told them. "You needed me to let you do your job. That's leadership. That's how we move forward." It was the closest thing to a benediction he'd ever given. The weeks that followed were a blur of progress. The Neuralink approval freeze was reversed after an open hearing where Elon admitted past mistakes and outlined a new transparency initiative. Tesla's solar division signed a landmark deal with the state of Arizona for modular grid systems. And a rumor began circulating that Elon had been invited to speak before the United Nations on multiplanetary ethics. But even with success, there were shadows. Mark Danvers hadn't disappeared. Quietly, he met with investors, floated new concerns about Elon's stability, and hinted at a formal challenge for control. Rachel caught wind of it through back channels and confronted him in a sterile Tesla boardroom. "You really think the company's better off without him?" she asked. "I think it needs someone who won't collapse under pressure," he replied coolly. "He's not a messiah. He's a risk. He's also the reason we exist," Rachel shot back. "And he's evolving. Can you say the same?" The fight wasn't over. There were still traps ahead. But the center held. Elon was no longer a single point of failure, he was part of something larger now. Something that could bend without breaking. One night, weeks after the launch, Elon returned to the cabin in British Columbia, not to escape, but to reflect. This time, he invited Rachel. They sat by the fire, no notebooks, no laptops. Just silence and stars. "You know," he said, "I used to think being alone was the only way I could think clearly." Rachel smiled. "You were wrong." "Yeah," he said. "Turns out, being understood, that's what actually clears the noise." They stayed there until the fire burned low. No dramatic declarations. No visions of Mars. Just two people who had walked through chaos and come out not unscathed, but stronger. Elon Musk had returned to the front lines, not as an invincible force, but as a man willing to lead from within the storm, rather than standing alone at its center. The future was still uncertain. But for the first time in a long time, it felt like it belonged to more than just one man. And that made all the difference. For a few fleeting weeks, it seemed like the tide had turned. Elon's return had reinvigorated teams, boosted morale, and reminded everyone that the engine driving their wildest ambitions was human, not mechanical. The public narrative softened, and internally, Rachel saw something she hadn't in months: hope. But it was too early to celebrate. The backlash was coming. And it would cut deeper than expected. It began with a single anonymous op-ed published in a prominent financial outlet under the title, "The Cult of Musk is Crumbling, and That's a Good Thing." The article accused Elon of emotional manipulation, chronic instability, and creating a culture of dependency and fear masked as visionary leadership. It cited unnamed sources within Tesla and SpaceX, claiming mass burnout, decision-making chaos, and a messiah complex at the top. The piece went viral in under 4 hours. Rachel read it in her office before sunrise, her jaw tightening with every sentence. It was calculated. Precise. Designed to reframe Elon's comeback as a cover-up. She suspected immediately who had fed the fire. Mark Danvers. He'd been quiet for too long. The op-ed hit just as Tesla's stock was rebounding, as Neuralink got its first human subject lined up, as the world was slowly beginning to see Elon's evolution as real. The timing wasn't random. It was an ambush. Elon read the article alone. Rachel found him 2 hours later on the roof of the SpaceX Design Center, staring out at the horizon like he was searching for a runway that didn't exist. "You okay?" she asked. "Define okay," he replied without turning around. "I'm being publicly dissected by people who used to clap at my speeches." "We've survived worse," she said. "This isn't just PR," he muttered. "It's strategic. It's internal. Someone close fed that story." He turned to face her. "I think it's Danvers. I think he's been working every angle to prove I'm a liability. And this is the setup." He was right. Within 48 hours, 2 board members requested an emergency leadership review session. Emails leaked. Investor confidence dipped again. Employees started asking questions behind closed doors. Is he really stable? Are we reorganizing again? Is this thing going to fall apart? Rachel convened an emergency meeting with the inner circle, outlining possible damage control strategies, media counterpoints, employee town halls, direct messaging to investors. But Elon stopped her midway through the presentation. "No spin," he said. "I don't want to fight fiction with fiction. If they want the truth, they get the truth. All of it. That's not how this game works," Rachel warned. "Truth doesn't trend. Drama does. Then we make honesty dramatic," Elon said. He announced an open Q&A live stream, no pre-screened questions, no PR script. Just him, a camera, and the world. It was a gamble so reckless even Rachel hesitated. "This could backfire," she said. "Or it could reset everything," Elon replied. The stream drew over 32 million viewers. Elon sat in a plain chair, wearing a dark hoodie and speaking with unfiltered candor. He addressed the op-ed, the allegations, his mental health, his mistakes. He didn't defend the culture he'd built. He dissected it. "I pushed people too hard. I expected myself to carry everything. I modeled behavior that wasn't sustainable. That's on me. But we're not a cult. We're a team. And I'm done pretending I have to be the lone genius at the top." He spoke for an hour. Took hard questions. Answered with humility, not charm. He didn't try to control the narrative. He just told the truth. And it worked, at least for some. Comments flooded in, many supportive, others hostile. Investors were split. But what mattered most was what happened internally. For the first time, employees saw the man behind the curtain, raw, flawed, aware of the damage and committed to doing better. But not everyone wanted better. Some wanted power. And Mark Danvers saw his opportunity. The next day, he initiated a formal proposal for executive restructuring. The board would vote in 7 days. The motion: to remove Elon Musk as acting CEO of all 4 companies and replace him with an interim leadership council. Rachel confronted Mark in the Tesla campus parking lot, under sodium lights that made everything feel cold and sterile. "You're burning the house down," she said. "No," Mark replied calmly. "I'm rebuilding it. Without the unstable foundation. You don't care about stability. You care about control. Control is how you keep rockets from exploding. It's how you keep quarterly earnings from cratering. This isn't personal. It's math." Rachel's jaw tightened. "He's changing. He's doing the work. You'd throw that away for a shot at the crown?" "He's the past," Mark said. "I'm the future." For a moment, Rachel wanted to punch him. Instead, she walked away. Back at SpaceX, Elon didn't react with rage. He didn't scream. He didn't spiral. He just sat quietly and nodded. "I knew this would come," he said. "And maybe it's necessary. Maybe this is the final test of what we've built." "We're not letting them take it," Rachel said. "Not like this." Elon looked at her, tired but resolute. "Then we don't fight dirty. We fight with ideas. Vision. We remind them why this all started." Over the next 6 days, Elon didn't go into hiding. He went to work. He held open sessions with engineers, janitors, interns. He answered questions without ego. He invited feedback and criticism. He showed people what shared leadership looked like in action. He posted internal metrics. Cost savings. Engineering wins. Cultural improvements. And then he released one final internal memo, not to the public, but to every employee across all divisions. "We didn't get here because of one man. We got here because a group of unreasonable people believed they could change the world. If you still believe that, vote with your heart, not your fear." The board meeting was closed door. But the vote that followed became one of the most important moments in the modern history of innovation. The motion failed, narrowly. 3-4. Elon stayed on. Mark Danvers resigned that afternoon. No press conference. No farewell email. Just silence. The next day, Elon gathered his core team on the SpaceX mezzanine and looked out over the manufacturing floor. "I've made more mistakes than I can count," he said. "But today, we earned another shot. Not because I'm right, but because we're willing to keep building even after everything tried to break us." Rachel stood beside him, pride and exhaustion warring on her face. "You're still standing," she said. "Barely," Elon replied. "But that's enough." They watched as workers assembled the next rocket stage, sparks flying, hands steady. The betrayal hadn't broken him. It had clarified him. The backlash had forced honesty. And somehow, in the ashes of near collapse, something new had begun to rise, stronger, shared, and maybe, finally, sustainable. The weeks following the board vote brought a strange stillness. Not peace exactly, there was too much to fix, too much hanging in the air, but a kind of calm that only arrives after a near catastrophe. Elon moved through his days with a different rhythm now. Less explosive. More focused. There were still flashes of intensity, no one expected him to stop being Elon, but his energy had become sharper, less reactive, more surgical. Every decision he made now carried the echo of the near loss, as if he were constantly asking himself, "What happens if I disappear again?" Across Tesla, SpaceX, and Neuralink, the new systems he'd implemented began to show signs of real resilience. Project timelines were improving. Teams were reporting higher satisfaction, lower churn. At Starlink, global satellite coverage was finally crossing critical thresholds, and even the UN had begun informal talks about partnerships in underserved regions. And yet, with every gain came pressure. Pressure to maintain this new version of leadership. Pressure not to relapse into old habits. Pressure to prove that the comeback wasn't a fluke. Elon was feeling it. Rachel could see it in the smallest things. His longer pauses before replying, his tighter grip on the edge of the conference table, the way he'd stare just a little too long at schematics, as if willing them to solve themselves. "You're doing too much again," she told him one evening in the Falcon design hangar, where he was hunched over a new payload architecture. "You delegated, remember? That was the whole point." "Delegating isn't the same as detaching," he replied, not looking up. "If I stop obsessing over details, things slip. Systems decay. You know that. You trained the system not to depend entirely on you. You have to trust that now." He leaned back, closed his eyes for a beat, then opened them slowly. "I do trust them. But I don't trust time. Time erodes everything. Discipline. Culture. Vision. The moment we think we've got it handled is the moment we lose the edge. Rachel exhaled. You're afraid of losing relevance. He looked at her, and for the first time in a while, didn't argue. Yeah. Maybe I am. There it was. The one pressure Elon never really talked about. Not the pressure to succeed, but the pressure to matter. The fear that if he stopped sprinting into the future, the world would move on without him. That the myth would survive, but the man would be forgotten. The next day, Elon received a message flagged urgent from a private channel. A tech startup in South Africa, barely on the radar, had made a major leap in fusion energy containment. Small scale, portable, and potentially disruptively cheap. The message had been passed through academic circles, but someone had looped Elon in with a cryptic subject line, they might have cracked it before you. For a man who had spent years chasing breakthrough energy solutions, it was both exciting and gutting. If true, it meant someone had outpaced him on the energy front. Not in public. Not in headlines. Quietly. Technically. Elegantly. This is good, Rachel said when he showed her the data. Is it? Elon replied. Or is it the beginning of irrelevance? You said yourself, this isn't about one person anymore. If someone else solves fusion, great. Humanity wins. I know that intellectually, he said. But emotionally? It feels like a dethroning. That night, Elon drove alone to the original Tesla factory in Fremont. It was nearly midnight. He didn't tell anyone. He wandered the line floor where his fingerprints still haunted the walls, the place where he'd once slept in a sleeping bag during the Model 3 crisis, troubleshooting bottlenecks at 2 a.m., welding brackets himself when no one else would. He walked past robots humming under cold lights, past half-assembled battery arrays. Everything was faster now, smarter, smoother. And he realized something terrifying. The system was working without him. And that was both the dream and the nightmare. He wasn't needed the way he once was. And for a man who had built his identity around being the keystone, the irreplaceable visionary, it hit harder than he expected. Back at HQ, Rachel met with the executive team to review quarterly performance. Numbers were up. Investor confidence returning. But a new question was creeping into the conversations. What was next? Not for the companies, for Elon. One exec asked it directly. What is he building toward now? Mars? AGI? Another startup? Or is this it, just stewardship? The question hung there. Because the truth was, no one knew. Not even Elon. For 20 years, he had been defined by impossible missions. Now that stability had returned, there was a void. The mission wasn't survival anymore. It was legacy. But legacy required letting go. And that was a different kind of challenge. Rachel knew they needed something new to aim for. Not a distraction. A direction. She spent the next week reviewing every skunkworks project Elon had ever shelved. One stood out. Polaris. A modular, self-sustaining city design, equal parts urban planning and science fiction. It wasn't about Mars. It was about Earth. Future-proof habitats for a planet under pressure. Elon had started the concept 5 years ago, but shelved it after supply chain issues stalled progress. It was brilliant. Expensive. And insanely ambitious. Rachel brought it to him during one of their nightly walks through the solar R&D floor. This, she said, handing him the file. This is what you were building toward. You just forgot. Elon scanned the sketches. Floating garden domes. Geothermal nodes. Vertical food stacks. Managed resource grids. Polaris, he murmured. I thought it was too soon. Too optimistic. Maybe it was then. But not now. He kept staring at the plans. You think they'd follow me on this? I think they'd follow you anywhere, if you show them it matters. Something shifted in him that night. Not a sudden epiphany. More like gravity resetting. Over the next month, Polaris moved from dormant blueprint to active initiative. Elon framed it not as a new company, but as a collective mission across all his companies, a fusion of energy, automation, biotech, transportation, and systems engineering. It would be a template for cities of the future, designed not for survival, but for thriving. And this time, he didn't lead alone. He appointed a cross-division council of engineers and civic designers to build the roadmap. He took a step back, not out, just enough. He didn't name the city after himself. He didn't take the center seat in meetings. Instead, he built momentum. Created gravity. And let the system orbit around purpose, not ego. As news of Polaris leaked, first in whispers, then in full features, something surprising happened. People didn't roll their eyes. They leaned in. After the chaos, the walkout, the confession, the failed coup, this was a story they wanted to believe again. Not just another Musk mission. A shared one. And Elon? He began sleeping more. Talking more. Laughing more. Still intense. Still restless. But more human than ever. One evening, as they walked through the early 3D models of the Polaris district, he said, almost casually, "You ever wonder what it looks like when someone actually learns from their own downfall?" Rachel smiled. "I think we're standing in it." He nodded. Then added, "But tomorrow, we build it." Because tomorrow still mattered. Because the pressure of what's next would never go away. But for the first time in a long time, Elon Musk didn't see that pressure as a threat. He saw it as a compass. And this time, he wasn't chasing relevance. He was designing permanence. The Polaris initiative had ignited a renewed sense of purpose across Elon Musk's ventures. Teams at Tesla, SpaceX, and Neuralink rallied around the vision of sustainable, self-sustaining cities, seeing it as a tangible path forward. Yet, as the project gained momentum, the specter of Musk's recent political entanglements loomed large, threatening to overshadow the progress they had made. In early June 2025, the fallout from Musk's brief tenure at the Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE, continued to reverberate. The Tesla Takedown movement, a grassroots protest aimed at economically impacting Musk through demonstrations and boycotts, had gained significant traction. Protesters organized peaceful demonstrations at Tesla stores across the United States, Canada, Europe, and Australasia, urging the public to divest from Tesla by selling their vehicles and shares of Tesla stock. The movement's goal was to challenge Musk's political influence and hold him accountable for the mass layoffs and controversial policies enacted during his time at DOGE. The protests were not limited to the streets. Analysts and investors expressed concerns about Musk's leadership and the potential long-term effects on Tesla's brand and market position. Wedbush Securities analyst Dan Ives warned that Tesla's stock value faced irreversible damage unless Musk focused fully on the automaker. He noted that the political turmoil had strained investor confidence, with Tesla's stock declining by 40 to 45% year-to-date and first-quarter deliveries dropping sharply from 2024's near 1.8 million global total. Within the companies, the atmosphere was tense. Elon Musk had returned to his leadership roles, but the shadow of his political involvement lingered. Employees were torn between their commitment to the innovative projects they were working on and the public backlash against their CEO. Some felt a renewed sense of purpose, inspired by the vision of Polaris and the potential to make a lasting impact. Others questioned whether they could continue to support a leader whose actions had led to widespread criticism and unrest. Rachel, ever the pragmatic leader, recognized the need to address the internal divisions. She initiated a series of town hall meetings across the companies, providing a platform for employees to voice their concerns and ask questions directly. Elon participated in these sessions, acknowledging the mistakes made during his time at DOGE and expressing his commitment to learning from them. He emphasized that the Polaris project was a collective effort and that he was not seeking to centralize power but to empower teams to take ownership of their work. Despite these efforts, the external pressure continued to mount. The media coverage remained critical, with headlines focusing on the political controversy rather than the technological advancements being made. Investor confidence remained shaky, and regulatory scrutiny increased as lawmakers questioned the implications of Musk's dual roles in both the private sector and government. In an attempt to shift the narrative, Elon Musk announced a series of public demonstrations showcasing the progress of the Polaris initiative. The first event was held at the Tesla Gigafactory in Nevada, where a prototype of the modular city design was unveiled. The demonstration included live simulations of energy-efficient housing units, autonomous transportation systems, and integrated renewable energy solutions. The event was streamed globally, attracting significant attention and sparking discussions about the feasibility and potential impact of such a project. The demonstration received mixed reactions. Supporters hailed it as a bold step toward sustainable urban development, while critics questioned the practicality and cost of implementing such a vision. Some viewed it as a diversionary tactic, an attempt to shift focus from the ongoing political controversies. Others saw it as a genuine effort to contribute positively to society. Internally, the demonstration had a galvanizing effect. Teams across Tesla and SpaceX rallied around the project, motivated by the opportunity to be part of something transformative. The sense of purpose that had been rekindled with Polaris began to outweigh the lingering doubts and criticisms. Employees felt a renewed sense of pride in their work, driven by the belief that they were contributing to a meaningful cause. However, the external challenges persisted. The Tesla takedown movement continued to organize protests and campaigns, and media coverage remained focused on the political aspects of Musk's leadership. Regulatory bodies increased their scrutiny, and lawmakers called for hearings to examine the implications of Musk's actions during his time at Doge. In response, Elon Musk intensified his efforts to engage with the public and address the criticisms head-on. He participated in interviews and panel discussions, articulating his vision for the future and acknowledging the mistakes made in the past. He emphasized the importance of accountability and transparency, stating that he was committed to learning from the experience and ensuring that the companies operated with integrity moving forward. Despite these efforts, the shadow of the past continued to loom large. The political controversies had left a lasting impact on public perception, and rebuilding trust would be a long and challenging process. However, within the companies, there was a growing sense that the focus needed to shift back to the work at hand. The Polaris initiative represented a path forward, a way to demonstrate the company's commitment to innovation and positive societal impact. As the months progressed, the internal momentum behind Polaris continued to build. Teams worked tirelessly to refine the designs, address technical challenges, and plan for implementation. The project became a unifying force, bringing together diverse talents and perspectives in pursuit of a common goal. Externally, the challenges remained. The Tesla takedown movement showed no signs of waning, and public scrutiny remained intense. Investor confidence was slowly rebuilding, but the road to full recovery was uncertain. Regulatory bodies continued their investigations, and lawmakers maintained their calls for accountability. Yet, amidst the ongoing challenges, there was a sense of cautious optimism. The Polaris initiative had become more than just a project, it had become a symbol of resilience and a testament to the company's capacity to adapt and innovate. While the shadow of the past still loomed, the focus was shifting toward the future, toward the possibilities that lay ahead. Elon Musk, once again at the helm, recognized that the journey was far from over. The path forward would require continued effort, transparency, and a steadfast commitment to the values that had driven the companies from the beginning. But with Polaris, there was a renewed sense of purpose, a shared vision that could guide them through the challenges and toward a brighter future. The summer of 2025 arrived with a sense of cautious optimism at SpaceX. The Polaris Dawn mission had concluded successfully, marking a significant milestone in private space exploration. Astronauts had conducted the first commercial spacewalk, and the crew had reached an unprecedented altitude of 1,400 kilometers above Earth. The mission's success was a testament to the advancements SpaceX had made in human spaceflight technology. However, the triumph was tempered by the ongoing challenges Elon Musk faced on the ground. The Tesla takedown movement continued to gain momentum, with protests and boycotts targeting Tesla and SpaceX. Despite Musk's resignation from the Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE, and his public clash with President Donald Trump, the public's perception remained largely unchanged. The movement's calls for accountability and transparency resonated with many, and the pressure on Musk intensified. Internally, the companies were navigating a complex landscape. While the Polaris initiative provided a unifying vision, the external pressures threatened to undermine the progress made. Employees were divided, some were inspired by the mission's success, while others were disillusioned by the ongoing controversies. The leadership team recognized the need for decisive action to address the internal divisions and restore confidence. Elon Musk, ever the innovator, understood that the path forward required more than technological advancements, it required a renewed commitment to the values that had driven his ventures from the beginning. He initiated a series of internal dialogues, engaging with employees at all levels to understand their concerns and aspirations. These conversations revealed a shared desire for a clear and compelling vision that transcended the current challenges. Drawing inspiration from the success of the Polaris Dawn mission, Musk proposed a new initiative. The Polaris Horizon. This ambitious project aimed to establish a sustainable human presence on the Moon, serving as a stepping stone for future interplanetary exploration. The initiative would encompass the development of advanced habitats, life support systems, and propulsion technologies, building upon the lessons learned from Polaris Dawn. The announcement of Polaris Horizon reinvigorated the workforce. Teams across Tesla, SpaceX, and Neuralink rallied around the new mission, eager to contribute to humanity's next great leap. The initiative provided a unifying purpose, offering a tangible goal that could unite the companies and their employees. Externally, the response was mixed. Some viewed the initiative as a bold step forward, a testament to Musk's enduring vision. Others questioned the timing, suggesting that the companies should focus on resolving current issues before embarking on new ventures. Investor sentiment was cautiously optimistic, with many awaiting further developments before making significant commitments. In the political arena, the announcement of Polaris Horizon sparked renewed debates about the role of private companies in space exploration. Lawmakers expressed concerns about the potential implications for national security and the allocation of resources. Musk's previous involvement with DOGE remained a point of contention, with some critics arguing that his focus should remain on terrestrial concerns. Despite the challenges, Musk remained resolute. He understood that innovation often required navigating turbulent waters and that the pursuit of ambitious goals could inspire others to rise above adversity. With Polaris Horizon, he sought to rekindle the spirit of exploration and discovery that had driven his ventures from the beginning. As the year progressed, the companies made significant strides toward realizing the objectives of Polaris Horizon. Collaborations with international space agencies and research institutions were established, pooling resources and expertise to tackle the complex challenges of lunar exploration. Prototypes of advanced habitats and propulsion systems were developed and tested, demonstrating the feasibility of the ambitious goals. Internally, the renewed focus on innovation and exploration helped to mend divisions within the workforce. Employees found a renewed sense of purpose, motivated by the opportunity to contribute to a mission of global significance. The shared commitment to the success of Polaris Horizon fostered a culture of collaboration and resilience, reinforcing the values that had been the foundation of the company's successes. Externally, the narrative began to shift. Media coverage increasingly highlighted the technological advancements and collaborative efforts associated with Polaris Horizon, overshadowing the previous controversies. Public perception began to align more closely with the company's renewed focus on innovation and positive societal impact. Investor confidence gradually rebounded as well. The clear vision and tangible progress associated with Polaris Horizon reassured stakeholders, leading to increased support and investment. The company's stock prices stabilized, and long-term projections became more favorable, reflecting the renewed optimism surrounding the initiatives. In the political sphere, discussions about the role of private companies in space exploration continued. While some lawmakers remained cautious, others recognized the potential benefits of public-private partnerships in advancing space exploration goals. Musk's previous political engagements were acknowledged but did not dominate the discourse, allowing for a more balanced conversation about the future of space exploration. As the year drew to a close, the Polaris Horizon Initiative stood as a testament to the power of innovation, resilience, and vision. It demonstrated that even in the face of adversity, a clear and compelling purpose could unite individuals and organizations toward a common goal. Elon Musk, once again, had charted a course toward the future, inspiring others to join him on the journey. In the spring of 2025, the Polaris program reached a significant milestone with the successful launch of the Polaris Dawn mission. This mission, conducted by SpaceX, marked the first commercial spacewalk and achieved the highest altitude ever reached by a crewed spacecraft since the Apollo missions. The crew, led by billionaire Jared Isaacman, included pilot Scott Poteet, mission specialists Sarah Gillis and Anna Menon. They embarked on a 5-day journey aboard SpaceX's Crew Dragon capsule, launched atop a Falcon 9 rocket from Kennedy Space. The mission's primary objectives were to reach an unprecedented altitude of 1,400 kilometers above Earth, conduct the first commercial extravehicular activity, EVA, and test SpaceX's new spacesuit designed for such operations. The crew also aimed to gather data on the effects of deep space radiation on the human body and test communication systems for future interplanetary missions. The mission's success was a testament to the advancements in private spaceflight and the capabilities of SpaceX's technology. One of the most groundbreaking aspects of the Polaris Dawn mission was the commercial spacewalk conducted by Isaacman and Gillis. This EVA was the first of its kind, previously reserved for astronauts from government space agencies. The crew utilized SpaceX's newly developed Extravehicular Mobility Unit, EMU, an advanced spacesuit designed to provide greater mobility and functionality during spacewalks. The suit featured enhanced life support systems, improved thermal regulation, and advanced communication capabilities, marking a significant step forward in spacesuit design. In addition to the EVA, the crew conducted over 40 scientific experiments during their mission. These included studies on space motion sickness, radiation exposure, and the effects of microgravity on the human body. The data collected from these experiments are expected to inform future space missions and contribute to the understanding of human health in space. Despite the mission's success, the Polaris program faced challenges and controversies. The program's ambitious objectives and private funding model drew scrutiny from various quarters. Critics questioned the allocation of resources to private space missions while public sector space programs faced budget constraints. Additionally, the involvement of private individuals in space exploration raised concerns about the commercialization of space and the potential for monopolistic practices. Furthermore, the political landscape in the United States added complexity to the program's trajectory. Jared Isaacman, the program's primary benefactor, was nominated to be the administrator of NASA. This nomination raised questions about potential conflicts of interest, given his financial ties to the Polaris program and his involvement with SpaceX. Isaacman pledged that, if confirmed, he would divest from his private space ventures to avoid any conflicts, but the situation remained a point of contention. Despite these challenges, the Polaris program continued to push the boundaries of space exploration. The success of the Polaris Dawn mission paved the way for future missions, including the planned launch of the Polaris 2 mission. This mission aims to conduct a crewed service of the Hubble Space Telescope, extending its operational life and contributing to the field of astronomical research. The ultimate goal of the Polaris program is to prepare for human missions to Mars. The program's focus on developing advanced life support systems, radiation shielding, and deep space communication technologies is expected to provide valuable insights for interplanetary travel. Through its innovative approach and public-private partnerships, the Polaris program is helping to shape the future of space exploration. The announcement of the Polaris 2 mission had stirred excitement and debate throughout the aerospace community. Everyone knew that Polaris Dawn had only been the beginning, a prelude to the next great challenge: sending humans to Mars. For Elon Musk and his team, the Martian frontier was no longer a distant dream but a goal within their reach, albeit a daunting one. The challenges of deep space travel to the Red Planet, distance, life support, radiation exposure, and psychological strain, loomed large. Yet Musk's vision was unwavering: humanity needed to become a multiplanetary species. The risk was enormous, but so were the stakes for the future of civilization. At SpaceX headquarters, engineers and scientists worked feverishly to develop the Starship spacecraft capable of carrying humans on the months-long journey to Mars. The Starship was a technological marvel, reusable, powerful, and designed to carry over 100 people, plus cargo, fuel, and supplies. Months of rigorous testing had demonstrated its viability, but adapting it for interplanetary travel required new innovations. The spacecraft needed robust life support systems capable of recycling air, water, and waste over extended periods, radiation shielding to protect astronauts from cosmic rays, and efficient propulsion systems to reduce travel time. Every subsystem had to be flawless. One failure meant catastrophe millions of miles from Earth. Inside the design rooms, teams worked day and night. Neuralink researchers collaborated closely, exploring how brain-computer interfaces might help astronauts manage the psychological toll of isolation and confinement. Tesla engineers contributed by developing compact, efficient solar power units and batteries optimized for use on the Martian surface. The effort was unprecedented in scale and complexity, but the shared passion to achieve the impossible held the teams together. This was no longer just about technology. It was about the survival and future of humankind. Elon Musk, though often seen as aloof, maintained a presence that inspired and challenged. He would disappear into quiet moments when the pressure peaked, seeking solitude to think deeply and strategize. Then he would return with breakthroughs nobody had imagined, shifting the course of the program. These bursts of brilliance, combined with relentless determination, became legendary among the teams. But now, with the Polaris program evolving into the Martian initiative, the stakes were higher, and Musk's disappearances grew longer, his thoughts heavier. The media frenzy around Musk was relentless. Every announcement, every prototype test was dissected and debated worldwide. Skeptics questioned the feasibility of colonizing Mars, citing cost, safety, and ethical concerns. Yet supporters saw Musk as a visionary, the modern pioneer pushing humanity beyond its earthly bounds. The public was captivated by the prospect of humans walking on another planet, of a new chapter in exploration akin to the Apollo era but vastly more ambitious. Yet with the adulation came scrutiny, every misstep magnified, every delay criticized. At home, Musk's personal life felt the strain. Relationships suffered under the weight of his ambition and the demands of his companies. Friends and family expressed concern, worried he was sacrificing too much for a dream that might never fully materialize. Yet Musk remained convinced that failure was not an option. He believed the risks of remaining earthbound far outweighed the dangers of venturing into space. For him, Mars represented hope, a fresh start for humanity, a safeguard against extinction. One of the early challenges was crew selection. SpaceX needed astronauts not just with technical skills but with resilience, adaptability, and the psychological fortitude to survive long months in cramped conditions millions of miles from home. Training programs became intense, combining physical conditioning, simulated Mars environments, and mental health support. Candidates underwent rigorous evaluations, including isolation tests that mimicked the emotional and social challenges expected on the mission. NASA, international space agencies, and private partners joined in the recruitment and training process, emphasizing the collaborative spirit essential for success. As the first Starship prototype destined for Mars was unveiled, anticipation surged. The vehicle, gleaming and immense, embodied years of innovation and sacrifice. Its stainless steel exterior reflected the bright Florida sun as crowds gathered for the launch demonstration. The prototype's engines roared to life in a test fire that shook the ground, eliciting cheers and gasps from the audience. Yet engineers scrutinized every detail, aware that the path ahead was littered with setbacks. Early flights had resulted in spectacular explosions, each failure teaching painful lessons. The team knew that progress meant embracing failure as a stepping stone. Behind the scenes, Musk's leadership style was tested. Internal conflicts arose between engineers pushing for rapid innovation and safety experts demanding caution. The pressure to meet deadlines clashed with the need for thorough testing. Musk's occasional disappearances to think alone became more frequent, sometimes causing anxiety among executives who feared losing momentum. But each time he returned, Musk would unveil a new solution or pivot strategy, reminding everyone that breakthroughs often required stepping back to see the bigger picture. Outside the company, governments around the world took notice. Space treaties and regulations became topics of intense negotiation, especially concerning Mars colonization and resource utilization. Issues of sovereignty, environmental protection, and space law required delicate diplomacy. Musk often found himself in contentious debates with regulators and policymakers, advocating for streamlined rules that would allow private enterprise to thrive while addressing global concerns. The interplay between innovation and governance would shape the future of space exploration. Public fascination peaked when SpaceX announced the selection of the first Mars crew, a diverse group of scientists, engineers, doctors, and pilots from various countries. The announcement was a media spectacle, with profiles highlighting the candidates' backgrounds, motivations, and dreams. Social media buzzed with excitement and speculation. Some dubbed them the pioneers, others the Martians, recognizing the historic nature of their journey. Musk personally met with the crew, urging them to embrace the mission's risks and rewards, reminding them they were carrying humanity's future on their shoulders. Meanwhile, in the training facilities, the selected astronauts bonded through shared challenges and camaraderie. They faced grueling simulations, crisis drills, and psychological tests designed to prepare them for isolation, conflict, and emergencies. Support teams monitored their mental health, providing counseling and interventions as needed. The reality of the mission's dangers weighed heavily, but a shared sense of purpose united them. They were more than explorers, they were ambassadors for humanity's next chapter. Back on Earth, public opinion remained divided. Environmental groups raised concerns about the environmental impact of rocket launches and the ethics of prioritizing Mars colonization over Earth's problems. Social activists questioned the focus on space when issues like poverty, climate change, and inequality persisted. Musk addressed these concerns openly, asserting that space exploration and Earth stewardship were not mutually exclusive. He emphasized Tesla's role in advancing clean energy technologies and argued that expanding humanity's reach into space was essential to securing a sustainable future. As launch day for the first crewed Mars mission approached, tension and excitement mounted. The launch site buzzed with activity as final preparations were made. Family members of the crew gathered, knowing this moment might change their lives forever. Media outlets set up cameras and broadcasting equipment, capturing every detail. Musk, usually composed, showed a rare vulnerability, acknowledging the mission's risks but expressing confidence in his team. The countdown began, a symbolic heartbeat marking humanity's bold step toward the Martian frontier. When the engines ignited and the starship lifted off, the world watched with bated breath. The ascent was flawless, the vehicle accelerating into orbit before beginning the Transmars injection burn. Communications were clear, and the crew reported feelings ranging from awe to focused determination. The months-long voyage ahead would test their endurance and the technology they relied upon. They were venturing into the unknown, pioneers not only in space but in human spirit. The journey itself revealed the harsh realities of interplanetary travel. Microgravity took its toll on muscles and bones despite exercise regimens. The psychological strain of isolation and confinement challenged the crew daily. They relied on Neuralink interfaces to maintain mental well-being, using virtual environments and communication tools to stay connected with Earth and each other. The spacecraft's systems required constant monitoring and maintenance, with occasional glitches serving as reminders of the precariousness of their voyage. Yet amid the hardships, moments of profound beauty emerged. The crew witnessed the Earth shrinking into a blue marble, stars brighter and more numerous without atmospheric interference. Conversations ranged from scientific observations to personal reflections on humanity's place in the universe. The mission forged bonds deeper than friendship, creating a family united by shared sacrifice and hope. Each day brought them closer to the Red Planet and a new chapter in human history. As the starship approached Mars, the crew prepared for the descent and landing, a phase fraught with peril. The thin atmosphere complicated aero-braking maneuvers, and the terrain below was rugged and uncharted. Success depended on flawless coordination between human pilots and autonomous systems. The tension was palpable as the spacecraft entered the Martian atmosphere, heat shields glowing red, deceleration controls firing precisely. Seconds felt like hours as the vehicle descended through dust storms and variable winds. The landing, though harrowing, was successful. The crew touched down on the surface, a moment broadcast live worldwide. Cheers erupted globally as humanity's first interplanetary settlers stepped onto Martian soil. Their footprints marked not only new ground but the beginning of humanity's expansion beyond Earth. The red dust swirled beneath their boots as they raised flags, conducted scientific surveys, and set up initial habitats. The reality of Mars was stark and unforgiving, but also breathtakingly beautiful. Elon Musk's vision was realized in that moment, yet the mission was only the start. The challenges of establishing a sustainable colony, growing food, generating power, building infrastructure, loomed large. The Martian frontier demanded not just exploration but endurance, innovation, and adaptability. The crew understood their responsibility not only to survive but to build a foundation for those who would follow. Mars was no longer science fiction, it was home, a new frontier for human civilization. This chapter in history was a testament to human ingenuity, courage, and the indomitable spirit to reach beyond the familiar. It embodied the lessons learned through Polaris Dawn and the subsequent years of relentless effort. The Martian frontier was daunting, uncertain, and filled with peril, but also shimmering with hope and promise. Humanity's journey had begun, propelled by visionaries like Musk and sustained by the collective dreams of millions. The first few months on Mars felt surreal, hope and hardship entwined in every step. The crew set up their base camp in the shadow of Olympus Mons, Mars' colossal volcano. The habitat modules, sleek and silver, stood out starkly against the rust-colored landscape. Outside, the cold wind howled as dust storms roared in the distance, reminding the settlers how alien this world was. Inside, every system hum was a lifeline, oxygen generators, water recyclers, solar panels soaking in faint sunlight. Every breath, every drop of water recycled from sweat or breath, was a triumph. The team knew survival here was an intricate dance with the planet's harshness. Elon Musk's vision, the dream that had galvanized so many on Earth, now rested on their shoulders. The world watched, mesmerized by live feeds and regular updates. Back home, celebrations echoed, a new era of human exploration had dawned. Yet beneath the jubilation lurked anxiety. This wasn't just a mission, it was humanity's grand experiment. The thin atmosphere, high radiation, and lack of resources meant there was no margin for error. A failure here could set back not just the program but the idea of off-world colonization altogether. The crew divided their days between scientific research and building infrastructure. Advanced hydroponic systems allowed them to grow small quantities of fresh vegetables, a taste of green in a barren red world. The Martian soil, rich in perchlorates, was toxic, requiring careful processing before any agricultural use. Experiments tested various ways to detoxify and enrich the soil, hoping to expand crop yields and reduce reliance on Earth shipments. Every harvest, however modest, boosted morale. Psychological challenges soon emerged as a serious threat. The crew faced isolation, confinement, and the strain of knowing they were far beyond any rescue. Disagreements and frustrations bubbled beneath the surface, moments of tension flaring in close quarters. The Neuralink devices helped, allowing team members to share thoughts and emotions more openly, mitigating misunderstandings. Still, the psychological toll was undeniable. Mental health counselors on Earth held regular video sessions, but communication delays, ranging up to 22 minutes one way, made real-time support impossible. One of the crew, Dr. Elena Vargas, a brilliant but emotionally guarded biochemist, began to struggle. She had volunteered knowing the risks, motivated by a fierce desire to advance science and humanity's future. Yet the isolation wore on her. She started missing meetings, grew withdrawn, and was found one evening staring out at the red horizon, whispering to herself. Her crewmates worried, and Musk, who monitored updates closely, urged mission control to increase psychological support. They knew that on Mars, mental health was as critical as oxygen. Meanwhile, unexpected technical challenges emerged. The solar panels that powered the habitat suffered efficiency drops due to pervasive dust accumulation. Frequent dust storms coated surfaces in fine red powder, blocking sunlight and straining battery reserves. Engineers on Earth scrambled to design robotic dust cleaners and anti-static coatings that could be deployed remotely. But until solutions arrived, the crew had to ration energy, limiting their activities and communications with Earth. These shortages heightened stress and reminded everyone how fragile their foothold was. As the months passed, tensions intensified, not just among the crew but on Earth as well. Political and corporate rivalries surfaced, with governments and private entities jockeying for influence over Martian resources. The promise of mining rare minerals and extracting water ice from the planet's poles ignited debates over ownership and regulation. Musk found himself navigating a minefield of diplomacy and economic competition, striving to keep the mission's scientific and exploratory goals intact. The dream of Mars as a peaceful new beginning clashed with Earth's geopolitical realities. Amid these pressures, a shadow fell over the mission. Communications with the crew experienced mysterious blackouts lasting hours at a time. At first, these disruptions were blamed on solar storms or technical glitches, common enough in space travel. But as the blackouts grew more frequent and longer, suspicion grew. Analysts on Earth detected anomalies in the data streams, strange signals embedded in routine communications, suggesting possible interference or sabotage. A covert cyber investigation was launched, but no clear culprit emerged. The mystery deepened. Inside the habitat, paranoia crept in. Was it a fault in the equipment? A software bug? Or worse, an intentional act by unknown actors seeking to undermine the mission? The crew worked harder to maintain trust and cohesion, but the fear was palpable. Elon Musk convened emergency video calls, reassuring the world and the crew that SpaceX was doing everything possible to secure communications and protect the mission. Yet he privately confided to his closest advisors that this was unlike anything they had prepared for, a silent war on the digital frontier that could jeopardize everything. Elena Vargas' condition worsened. One evening, she triggered an emergency alert after losing consciousness during a routine lab experiment. Medical personnel on Earth suspected severe stress-induced syncope, but the incident raised urgent questions about the mission's psychological strain. In the sterile confines of the Martian lab, the line between heroism and vulnerability blurred. The crew rallied around her, offering support and reminding each other of the fragile humanity beneath their scientific endeavors. Musk, deeply affected by the news, doubled down on efforts to provide mental health resources and improve living conditions. The first Martian winter approached, bringing longer nights and even harsher environmental challenges. Temperatures plunged dramatically, threatening power supplies and water recycling systems. The crew faced months of darkness and cold, a true test of endurance. Yet, within this struggle, remarkable resilience emerged. Small celebrations marked milestones, first harvests, successful repairs, even moments of humor in the face of adversity. These human touches underscored the mission's dual nature, a scientific expedition and a profoundly human story of survival. Back on Earth, public fascination with the Mars mission inspired a new generation. Schools launched space-related programs, startups formed around space technology. Artists and writers found fresh muse in the red planet's mystique. But amid the enthusiasm, ethical questions persisted. What right did humanity have to claim and alter another world? How could they ensure that the Martian environment was protected for future generations? International bodies debated new space treaties, seeking to balance exploration with responsibility. Meanwhile, inside the Martian habitat, the crew made a startling discovery. During geological surveys near the base, a rover detected unusual mineral deposits indicative of past water flow. More intriguing were faint organic molecules embedded in the rock, potential signs of ancient microbial life. The finding electrified the scientific team and Earth alike. If confirmed, it would rewrite humanity's understanding of life in the universe. But verifying such evidence required delicate analysis and sample return missions, none of which could be rushed. The possibility of life beyond Earth added wonder and urgency to the mission's goals. Amid these profound discoveries and challenges, Musk remained the enigmatic force driving the mission forward. Though physically absent, his presence was felt in every decision, every innovation. He communicated less frequently, choosing moments of strategic clarity over constant updates. His disappearances for contemplation grew longer as the weight of responsibility deepened. Yet when he emerged, it was always with renewed purpose, a new plan, a revised approach, a breakthrough that no one had foreseen. The legend of Musk's solitary genius persisted, a beacon of hope amid uncertainty. As the crew prepared for the first extended excursion beyond the habitat, tension mingled with anticipation. The mission's next phase, establishing outposts, expanding research, and testing technologies for self-sufficiency, was fraught with risks. Every step outside the safety of the habitat could mean life or death. Yet the explorers embraced the challenge with determination. Their journey was no longer just a mission, it was the forging of a new civilization's foundation, built on courage, innovation, and unyielding hope. The Martian frontier was proving to be both a crucible and a beacon. It revealed the limits of human endurance and the boundless potential of human spirit. Through isolation, fear, and discovery, the settlers on Mars embodied a timeless truth, that humanity's greatest adventures are born not in comfort, but in the bold leap into the unknown. Mars was proving to be an unforgiving teacher. The months following the discovery of the organic molecules brought a mixture of hope and unease. Scientific teams on Earth and Mars worked tirelessly to verify the findings, aware that such evidence could redefine humanity's place in the cosmos. Yet the mission's challenges intensified, revealing vulnerabilities that no amount of planning could fully anticipate. The settlers faced an unexpected and terrifying crisis that threatened not just their work but their very survival. It began with a subtle anomaly in the habitat's environmental controls. Oxygen levels fluctuated, water recycling slowed, and power reserves dipped without explanation. At first, the crew suspected technical glitches, common in the early stages of such a complex setup. Engineers ran diagnostics, checked seals, and recalibrated sensors. But the problems persisted, growing more frequent and severe. The habitat's delicate balance teetered on the edge. Elon Musk, watching the situation unfold from mission control, felt a deepening tension he rarely displayed. This was not just a failure of hardware, it was a potential catastrophe. Inside the habitat, panic simmered beneath the surface. Crew members doubled their vigilance, monitoring every system and conserving resources wherever possible. Communication delays with Earth meant that troubleshooting was a slow, agonizing process. The psychological strain mounted as the settlers faced the real possibility of suffocation or dehydration far from any rescue. Trust and morale, already fragile, were tested like never before. Every creak and hum of the habitat seemed a warning, every shadow a threat. The crisis escalated when a section of the habitat's oxygen recycler failed completely, plunging the crew into emergency protocols. Backup systems kicked in, but only for limited durations. The astronauts had to make critical decisions about rationing oxygen and restricting movement. Dr. Elena Vargas, despite her earlier struggles, took a leadership role in coordinating life support efforts, her scientific expertise and calm under pressure becoming a beacon for her team. Yet even she could not mask the fear in her eyes. The Martian environment outside the habitat was lethal, there was no turning back. SpaceX engineers on Earth scrambled to analyze telemetry data, searching for the root cause. Suspicion soon turned to the possibility of contamination, microscopic Martian dust infiltrating filters, corroding components, or even causing chemical reactions within the life support systems. The red dust, fine and pervasive, was more than a nuisance, it was a formidable adversary. Engineers debated solutions, from redesigning filters to deploying robotic cleaners, but time was running out. Every minute without stable oxygen flow heightened the danger. In the midst of this chaos, a communication blackout struck. For nearly 4 hours, the crew was cut off from Earth. The blackout sparked rumors and conspiracy theories back home. Was the mission compromised? Had sabotage struck again? Musk himself appeared on live broadcasts, urging calm and promising that the teams were working around the clock. The blackout ended abruptly with a flood of data that included system errors, environmental readings, and unsettling messages hinting at the crew's struggles. The world held its breath. Psychological support teams intensified their efforts. The crew's mental health became a critical concern as isolation, fear, and uncertainty converged. Dr. Vargas' condition fluctuated, moments of clarity interspersed with exhaustion and anxiety. Musk pushed for deployment of enhanced Neuralink protocols to help the crew manage stress and maintain cohesion. These neural interfaces, initially experimental, became vital lifelines, enabling shared experiences and emotional support despite physical separation. The technology blurred the lines between mind and machine, human and digital. Meanwhile, Earth's political tensions over Mars escalated. Rival nations accused SpaceX of monopolizing resources and influence, demanding transparency and international oversight. Musk responded with a rare public statement, emphasizing the mission's scientific and humanitarian goals, warning that politicizing space exploration threatened progress for all humanity. The discourse highlighted the fragile intersection of exploration, technology, and global politics, a reminder that Mars was not just a scientific frontier but a stage for earthly ambitions and conflicts. Amid these external pressures, the crew on Mars faced an internal challenge. A critical systems engineer, whose expertise was vital to restoring life support, developed symptoms consistent with severe carbon dioxide poisoning. The incident exposed gaps in medical preparedness and sparked urgent efforts to improve onboard healthcare capabilities. Telemedicine consultations, enhanced medical kits, and AI diagnostic tools became priorities. The crew trained intensively in emergency medical procedures, aware that every second counted if lives were to be saved in the thin Martian atmosphere. As repairs progressed, the settlers devised innovative solutions. They engineered makeshift dust barriers, deployed automated cleaning drones, and recalibrated filtration units using salvaged materials. The ingenuity of the crew reflected the spirit Musk had championed: adapt, improvise, overcome. Every small victory was a testament to human resilience, but the underlying vulnerability of their fragile habitat was clear. The crisis was a stark reminder that Mars was no place for complacency or error. Amid the danger, moments of humanity shone through. The crew shared stories of loved ones, memories of Earth, and dreams for the future. Virtual reality environments offered brief escapes into familiar landscapes, forests, oceans, cities. Music, art, and humor became essential coping mechanisms. These emotional anchors helped maintain morale and reminded the settlers that they were more than explorers, they were people with hopes, fears, and bonds that transcended space. Elon Musk's leadership during the crisis was both celebrated and scrutinized. His unorthodox methods, willingness to take risks, and visionary optimism inspired many but frustrated some who demanded more conventional approaches. Internally, Musk balanced his relentless drive with moments of vulnerability, confiding in trusted advisors about the weight of responsibility and the loneliness of command. His disappearances for deep reflection became even more frequent, each time returning with new strategies to steer the mission through uncharted waters. The crisis also accelerated technological advances. Lessons learned from system failures informed redesigns of life support, habitat architecture, and resource management. Collaborations with international partners expanded, sharing knowledge and technologies to improve future missions. The stakes had never been higher, but so had humanity's capacity for innovation and cooperation. Mars was shaping not just a new world, but a new paradigm for exploration. As the habitat stabilized and oxygen levels normalized, relief washed over the crew and mission control. The immediate danger had passed, but the experience left an indelible mark. Trust had been tested, weaknesses exposed, and resilience proven. The settlers emerged from the crisis with renewed determination, understanding that survival on Mars required constant vigilance, adaptability, and unity. They were pioneers in every sense, facing unknown risks with courage and hope. The world celebrated their survival as a triumph of human spirit and ingenuity. Yet the crisis underscored the fragile nature of their foothold on Mars. For Musk and his team, it was a sobering lesson and a call to action. The dream of colonizing Mars was real and within reach, but it demanded humility before the planet's harsh realities and a commitment to relentless improvement. The Red Planet was a harsh teacher, but its lessons would shape the future of human space exploration for generations. Musk prepared to reveal his next bold vision, an ambitious plan to build a self-sustaining Martian city that could thrive independently of Earth. The blueprint combined cutting-edge technology, international cooperation, and a radical rethinking of life beyond Earth. It was a vision born from crisis, forged in adversity, and fueled by an unyielding belief in humanity's destiny among the stars. Mars was no longer a distant dream or a fleeting experiment. It was becoming home. Imperfect, challenging, but filled with promise. The crisis had tested the settlers and their leader, but it had not broken them. Instead, it had sparked a new beginning, a testament to the indomitable human will to explore, endure, and evolve. The story of Mars was just beginning, and the world watched with hope and wonder as the next chapter unfolded. The dust had barely settled from the crisis when Elon Musk unveiled his vision for the next phase, the construction of a self-sustaining Martian city, a bold blueprint to transform the barren outpost into a thriving settlement. The plan promised independence from Earth's constant supply chain, with closed-loop ecosystems, advanced energy systems, and modular habitats that could expand organically. This vision electrified the public and galvanized governments, corporations, and scientists alike, but it also exposed fault lines, between dreamers and realists, pioneers and pragmatists, collaborators and competitors. The announcement came in a global live stream watched by millions. Musk, calm and resolute, outlined the technical challenges ahead and the risks involved. "We're not just building a base, we're building a future for humanity. Mars is no longer an experiment. It's a new home. But this home will require sacrifices, ingenuity, and unity." His words struck a chord. Across Earth, enthusiasm surged, from classrooms to boardrooms. Yet beneath the surface, opposition and skepticism festered. Could this colossal vision survive the realities of politics, economics, and human nature? The Martian crew received the news with a mix of awe and apprehension. Dr. Elena Vargas, who had emerged as a quiet leader during the crisis, grappled with her own doubts. The weight of responsibility pressed heavily. Could they really become a city? Would the fragile habitat survive expansion? How would they handle the inevitable social complexities? Life support was still precarious, infrastructure was rudimentary. The gap between vision and reality felt vast. Still, the promise of autonomy ignited hope, a light against the endless red horizon. Back on Earth, the political landscape was shifting rapidly. International space agencies clamored for a seat at the table, demanding roles in governance and resource sharing. The United Nations proposed a new treaty framework to regulate Martian activities, aiming to prevent a space gold rush and potential conflicts. Yet some nations viewed Musk's private venture as a threat to their own ambitions, raising questions about sovereignty and control in space. Lobbyists and diplomats engaged in high-stakes negotiations, often behind closed doors, as the world's superpowers eyed Mars as the next frontier of influence. Corporate interests complicated matters further. Tech giants, mining conglomerates, and energy firms all sought partnerships or stakes in the Martian project. The race to develop mining operations for rare minerals like lithium and platinum became a flashpoint. Ethical concerns about exploiting a pristine environment clashed with economic motivations. Environmental groups and scientists pushed for strict protections, warning against irreversible damage to Mars' fragile ecosystem. Social media exploded with debates, memes, and heated arguments. Mars had become a microcosm of Earth's own struggles with sustainability and capitalism. Within this growing complexity, Musk remained a singular force. His charisma and vision attracted both fervent supporters and fierce critics. He navigated the political labyrinth with calculated boldness, balancing transparency with strategic secrecy. Musk's disappearances for deep reflection, once mysterious, were now seen as part of his leadership style, moments to rethink, recharge, and return with disruptive ideas. His presence, though physically distant from Mars, was felt everywhere. Through directives, innovations, and the ever-present pressure to succeed. The crew on Mars faced their own social challenges. As the vision of a city took shape, interpersonal dynamics grew more complicated. The small team, once bonded by shared purpose and survival, now confronted new tensions, differing opinions on leadership, resource allocation, and risk-taking. Confined in close quarters, disputes flared over everything from scientific priorities to personal space. The Neuralink system, designed to foster empathy and communication, helped but could not eliminate underlying conflicts. The settlers had to learn to live with disagreement, negotiation, and compromise. Elena Vargas became a pivotal figure in managing these dynamics. Her background in biochemistry and her personal resilience earned respect. She advocated for open dialogue and mental health support, emphasizing the importance of emotional well-being alongside physical survival. Vargas introduced new protocols for conflict resolution, group activities, and shared responsibilities. These efforts created a fragile but vital social fabric, necessary for building a community that could endure the harshness of Mars and the complexity of human nature. Technological innovation accelerated as the city plan demanded new capabilities. Engineers developed advanced recycling systems, artificial photosynthesis for oxygen production, and 3D printing methods using Martian regolith to build habitats and tools. Robots and AI assistants became indispensable partners, performing hazardous tasks and maintaining systems. Every breakthrough brought the dream closer to reality but also revealed new obstacles, unpredictable material properties, energy fluctuations, and maintenance challenges in the extreme environment. The settlers became problem solvers in a high-stakes laboratory of survival. Musk's team on Earth pushed the boundaries of what was possible. Satellite constellations provided enhanced communication and mapping of Mars. Deep learning algorithms analyzed environmental data to predict dust storms and resource availability. Virtual reality environments help train future settlers and simulate emergency scenarios. The mission had grown into a vast network of interdependent systems spanning millions of miles, requiring coordination, trust, and adaptability on an unprecedented scale. Amid the technical and social upheaval, the human stories persisted. Letters and video messages from the crew revealed moments of joy and despair, humor and longing. One message from Elena to her family touched millions, a raw, heartfelt account of what it meant to be one of the first Martians, balancing pride and loneliness, fear and hope. These personal narratives connected distant Earthlings to the mission, reminding everyone that exploration was not just about technology but about people's dreams and sacrifices. However, cracks began to appear beneath the optimistic surface. Resource scarcity, particularly water and energy, loomed as a critical challenge. Unexpected geological surveys indicated that the deposits of water ice were less abundant than predicted, complicating plans for self-sufficiency. Energy demands outpaced solar capacity during long dust storms, forcing rationing and limiting activities. The settlers faced hard choices, balancing growth with conservation, ambition with pragmatism. The dream of a Martian city required tough trade-offs. Simultaneously, a shadow of dissent grew on Earth. Critics accused Musk of overpromising and underdelivering, pointing to the crisis as evidence of reckless ambition. Political rivals and competitors used every setback to undermine public support. Ethical debates about privatizing space and exploiting Mars intensified. Some activists called for a moratorium on expansion until clear international agreements were established. The media amplified every controversy, creating a volatile atmosphere that threatened funding and cooperation. Musk responded with characteristic defiance and vision. He doubled down on transparency, releasing detailed progress reports, opening parts of the mission to international scientific collaboration, and engaging directly with critics through interviews and social media. His message was clear: Mars was humanity's future, and setbacks were inevitable steps on the path to success. He appealed to a shared sense of destiny and curiosity, urging the world to unite behind exploration rather than division. His words resonated with many but failed to silence all dissent. Back on Mars, the crew prepared for the next critical phase, expanding habitat modules and deploying autonomous systems to build infrastructure. This phase was fraught with technical risk and social pressure. Each success would cement their foothold, each failure could jeopardize the entire mission. Elena Vargas took charge of scientific operations, coordinating teams with a blend of rigor and compassion. She understood that the future of the Martian city depended not just on technology but on human cooperation and resilience. As the chapter closed, the settlers gathered for a rare moment of celebration. A new habitat module, designed to support greater capacity and provide enhanced life support, was successfully installed. The red planet's horizon glowed softly in the background, a reminder of both challenge and promise. The Martians, tired but determined, looked toward a future that was still uncertain but undeniably theirs to shape. Elon Musk's vision had sparked a revolution, but the true journey, the building of a new civilization, was just beginning. Mars was no longer a distant dream. It was a new dawn, full of possibility and peril, division and hope. The settlers and their leader faced the greatest test of all, forging unity amid uncertainty, building a future in a world where every step forward demanded courage, sacrifice, and an unyielding belief in what humanity could achieve. The Martian settlement had taken its first steps toward becoming a city, but beneath the surface, a growing unease began to ripple through both Mars and Earth. The fragile balance that Elon Musk and his team had fought so hard to maintain now faced new threats: internal divisions, technical uncertainties, and the creeping influence of outside forces that no one fully understood. As the settlers expanded their habitats and pushed the limits of their technology, a profound silence began to settle over the mission, a quiet before a storm no one could yet predict. Communication between Mars and Earth was normally a lifeline, a pulse of data and voices bridging millions of miles. But in recent weeks, the messages had grown sparse and delayed. Technical glitches plagued the satellite network, worsened by an unprecedented solar storm that battered the Martian atmosphere and Earth's orbiting infrastructure. The storm disrupted power grids, scrambling communications and forcing mission control into emergency mode. On Mars, the settlers relied on limited local systems and improvised signals to stay in contact with Earth. The isolation was palpable. Inside the habitat, tension simmered. The crew, already fatigued by months of relentless challenges, felt the psychological strain deepen. Elena Vargas worked tirelessly to keep morale high, organizing group meetings, virtual gatherings, and meditation sessions to help the team process anxiety and uncertainty. Yet the silence from Earth gnawed at their resolve. Each day without clear updates or guidance felt like stepping further into the unknown. Trust wavered, not in each other, but in the fragile web of support they depended on. Elon Musk, watching the chaos unfold from mission control, was forced into a rare position of vulnerability. The solar storm's impact had exposed the limits of even the most advanced technologies, reminding him that nature's power could still humble human ambition. His usual confidence was tempered by a deep sense of responsibility and the weight of leadership. Musk convened emergency meetings with his top engineers and scientists, seeking ways to restore communications and safeguard the mission. The clock was ticking, and failure was not an option. As days passed with intermittent signals and partial data, rumors began to swirl on Earth. Speculation about the mission's status intensified, fueled by leaks and unverified reports. Some suggested the storm had caused catastrophic damage to the habitat or that the crew was incapacitated. Social media exploded with conspiracy theories and pleas for transparency. Elena Vargas emerged as a pillar of strength during this ordeal. Drawing on her scientific expertise and personal resilience, she led troubleshooting efforts and coordinated the crew's response. Her ability to maintain calm and focus inspired confidence, but beneath her composed exterior, she battled her own doubts. Memories of earlier crises haunted her, the near-fatal oxygen failure, the weight of responsibility for lives in her hands. The silence from Earth amplified her sense of isolation, but she refused to let despair take hold. On Earth, Musk initiated a bold plan to repair and upgrade the communications satellites and ground stations despite the solar storm's ongoing effects. The project demanded extraordinary coordination, innovative engineering, and international cooperation. Governments that had previously been skeptical now recognized the mission's critical importance and contributed resources and expertise. The race to restore the digital lifeline became a unifying cause, bridging political divides and reminding humanity of a shared destiny beyond Earth's borders. At the same time, Musk continued his pattern of withdrawal and return. In his moments of solitude, he pondered the meaning of the mission and his own role in it. The weight of expectation pressed heavily, but so did a profound sense of purpose. Musk's mind raced through possibilities, technological breakthroughs, diplomatic strategies, contingency plans. His disappearances became periods of intense reflection and recalibration, each time returning with fresh ideas to steer the mission through turbulence. The solar storm's aftermath also revealed unexpected scientific opportunities. The radiation and atmospheric disturbances provided valuable data on Martian weather and space weather interactions. Researchers on Earth analyzed the storm's impact, developing better predictive models and improved shielding technologies. These insights promise to enhance the safety and sustainability of future missions, turning a crisis into a catalyst for progress. The spirit of discovery, deeply ingrained in the mission's DNA, endured even in adversity. Amid these challenges, social dynamics on Mars grew more complex. The crew's small community felt the strain of isolation and uncertainty. Conflicts flared over resource priorities, work assignments, and leadership decisions. The Neuralink system helped mediate misunderstandings, but it could not erase the natural tensions of confinement and stress. Elena advocated for increased mental health support and encouraged open communication, emphasizing the importance of empathy and teamwork. The settlers learned that survival depended as much on social cohesion as on technology. Unexpectedly, a new member joined the crew, a robotics specialist flown in on a critical resupply mission that had managed to land during a brief communication window. His expertise proved invaluable in repairing damaged systems and developing new automation to reduce human workload. His arrival brought fresh energy and perspective, easing some tensions and reminding the settlers that they were part of a larger, ongoing effort. The renewed human connection bolstered morale, signaling a tentative turning point. On Earth, the media spotlight intensified as the public awaited news. Musk's transparency efforts helped dispel some fears, but skepticism remained. Documentaries, interviews, and social campaigns highlighted the mission's human stories, the triumphs, the setbacks, the raw emotions. These narratives rekindled support and inspired a new generation to look to the stars. Educational programs leveraged the mission's lessons, emphasizing science, resilience, and cooperation. Mars had become a powerful symbol of human potential and vulnerability. Yet the silence before the storm persisted. The settlers sensed an approaching reckoning, though its nature remained unclear. Technical warnings, environmental readings, and subtle shifts in crew dynamics hinted at challenges beyond the current crises. The mission's future depended on their ability to anticipate and adapt, to confront uncertainty with courage and ingenuity. The stakes had never been higher. As the chapter drew to a close, Musk prepared to announce a bold new initiative, a contingency plan to accelerate habitat expansion and resource independence, aiming to safeguard the settlement against future disruptions. This plan, born from the lessons of silence and storm, embodied the mission's core spirit: relentless innovation, unyielding hope, and the belief that humanity's destiny lay among the stars. The world watched with bated breath, ready for the next chapter in the unfolding saga of Mars. The fragile harmony aboard the Martian settlement was beginning to show cracks, subtle at first but growing with alarming speed. After the communication blackout and the solar storm, the crew found themselves caught in a web of technical challenges, psychological strain, and social tension that threatened to unravel the mission's very foundation. Elon Musk's new contingency plan, ambitious as it was, required a level of cooperation and resourcefulness that tested the limits of human endurance and trust. In the cramped habitat modules, Elena Vargas observed the changes with growing concern. The team, once tightly bonded by the urgency of survival, now grappled with fatigue, frustration, and the pressures of an uncertain future. Arguments erupted over priorities: should they focus on expanding habitats, improving life support, or repairing essential equipment? Personal conflicts, long buried under the weight of shared purpose, now bubbled to the surface. The Neuralink empathy interface, designed to ease communication, helped but could not erase the deepening divisions. The arrival of the robotics specialist, Daniel Hargrove, had initially boosted morale. His expertise in automation and repairs was invaluable, and his practical approach complemented Elena's scientific leadership. But Daniel's straightforward style and skepticism toward some of Musk's visionary plans put him at odds with others. He questioned the feasibility of rapid expansion without solid infrastructure, warning that haste could lead to disaster. His concerns resonated with a faction of the crew increasingly wary of risking everything on unproven technologies. Elena found herself caught between competing factions. She understood Daniel's caution but also recognized the importance of boldness in pushing the mission forward. Balancing these perspectives required diplomacy and resilience. She convened meetings aimed at fostering dialogue, encouraging the crew to voice fears and hopes alike. Slowly, a tentative consensus began to emerge around a phased approach. Stabilize existing systems while incrementally expanding the settlement, emphasizing safety without sacrificing ambition. Meanwhile, outside the habitat, Mars itself posed relentless challenges. Dust storms, temperature extremes, and unexpected geological shifts kept the crew on constant alert. A recent tremor shook part of the habitat, causing minor damage and renewed anxiety. Engineers scrambled to reinforce structures and update monitoring systems. The planet's unpredictability was a constant reminder that nature had the final say, no matter human determination or technology. Back on Earth, Musk faced mounting pressure from political leaders, investors, and the public. The mission's setbacks fueled criticism and calls for accountability. Some argued that private ventures should not lead humanity's space ambitions, advocating for a return to government-led programs. Others worried about the ethical implications of colonizing another planet, fearing exploitation and environmental harm. Musk countered these critiques with his characteristic blend of optimism and defiance, asserting that the risks were necessary steps toward a greater future. The political landscape became increasingly complex as nations negotiated space treaties and resource rights. The United Nations struggled to establish clear guidelines, balancing national interests with the common good. Corporate partnerships expanded, bringing new resources but also competing agendas. Musk's vision of a unified human effort clashed with the realities of geopolitical rivalry and economic competition. The dream of Mars as a shared home was shadowed by Earth's familiar divisions. Within the crew, personal stories deepened the human drama. Elena and Daniel's professional tension gave way to mutual respect, and even friendship, forged through shared hardship. Their contrasting worldviews sparked spirited debates that challenged assumptions and inspired innovation. Other crew members faced their own battles: homesickness, health scares, and the emotional toll of isolation. These intimate struggles highlighted the mission's emotional complexity beyond technical achievements. The Neuralink system played an increasingly vital role in managing stress and communication. Its developers introduced new features aimed at detecting early signs of mental distress and facilitating peer support. While the technology offered unprecedented connection in isolation, it also raised questions about privacy and autonomy. Some settlers expressed discomfort with the constant monitoring, fearing loss of personal boundaries. Elena advocated for ethical guidelines to ensure the system supported well-being without undermining individual freedom. In the midst of these challenges, a breakthrough came with the successful deployment of modular greenhouses using genetically engineered plants optimized for Martian conditions. These greenhouses significantly improved food production and oxygen generation, easing supply constraints. The settlers celebrated this achievement as a tangible step toward self-sufficiency and sustainability. The sight of fresh green life against the red landscape renewed hope and a sense of normalcy. However, the celebration was tempered by a sobering report from Earth. New simulations predicted that Mars' environment would become increasingly volatile due to seasonal shifts and cosmic radiation bursts. These conditions threatened to disrupt habitats and technology, requiring continuous adaptation. Musk and his team recognized that the mission was entering a new phase of unpredictability. Survival would depend on resilience, innovation, and an unwavering commitment to the collective vision. As the chapter neared its end, a critical incident tested the crew's fragile cohesion. A malfunction in the habitat's life support system caused a sudden drop in oxygen levels, triggering alarms and emergency protocols. The settlers worked together with precision and urgency to stabilize the system, but the event left a lingering sense of vulnerability. Elena reflected on the incident as a stark reminder that every moment on Mars was a battle against nature's indifference and the limits of human engineering. In the aftermath, the crew gathered for a somber meeting, acknowledging their fears but reaffirming their dedication. Elon Musk, addressing the mission via a rare live video link, praised their courage and resilience. "This is not just a mission, it's a test of what humanity can endure and achieve. We will face failures, setbacks, and losses. But together, we will build the future. Mars is our proving ground, our home, our hope." The words resonated deeply. Despite the fractures beneath the surface, the settlers found strength in their shared purpose. The dream that Elon Musk had ignited burned brighter than ever, a beacon guiding them through uncertainty toward a destiny that was both daunting and exhilarating. The mission to build a new world was no longer science fiction, it was an unfolding human epic, written one day, one challenge, one triumph at a time. Just when the Martian colony seemed to find its footing amid the chaos and uncertainty, a new, unforeseen threat began to emerge, one that would test the settlers' resilience and ingenuity in ways no one had anticipated. It started as a minor anomaly detected in the environmental sensors, barely noticeable at first, but soon it escalated into a full-blown crisis, threatening not just the habitat's infrastructure but the very lives of those living millions of miles from Earth. The anomaly was a strange, fluctuating pattern in the atmospheric readings. An irregular spike in radiation levels that defied existing models and predictions. Initially dismissed as sensor errors, the data became harder to ignore as readings confirmed an unusual increase in cosmic radiation penetrating the habitat's shielding. Mars' thin atmosphere offered little protection, and the recent solar storm had already stressed the settlement's defenses. Now, this new source of radiation posed an even greater danger. Elena Vargas was among the first to raise alarms. Her scientific instincts told her that this wasn't a natural occurrence. She convened the crew's top scientists and engineers for a thorough investigation, poring over data and simulations. The unsettling conclusion emerged: something was interfering with the radiation shield in a way they couldn't fully explain. The source was external but anomalous, not a solar event or a cosmic ray burst but something different, something artificial. The crew's conversations shifted from technical jargon to darker speculations. Could there be a deliberate attack on the colony? Was Earth truly alone in the universe? Was this a malfunction in the settlement systems or an indication of a far greater, hidden threat? Rumors began to spread among the settlers, amplified by the isolation and fear that had already taken root during the recent hardships. Trust in the mission's safety waned. Elon Musk, upon receiving preliminary reports through the restored communication channels, immediately prioritized the crisis. His calm demeanor belied a deep concern. He called for emergency collaboration between his engineers, NASA experts, and international space agencies to analyze the phenomenon. The world watched anxiously as Musk outlined a plan to investigate the anomaly with urgency and transparency, recognizing that the stakes had never been higher. Back on Mars, the crew worked feverishly to enhance their protective measures. Daniel Hargrove led a team retrofitting the habitat's radiation shielding using innovative materials and layered defenses. Elena coordinated with bioengineers developing pharmaceutical countermeasures to mitigate radiation exposure's health effects. The settlers adapted their schedules to minimize time spent in vulnerable areas during peak radiation spikes. Every step was a race against time and uncertainty. Amidst this technical battle, psychological tensions surged. The constant threat of invisible danger intensified stress and anxiety. Nightmares and paranoia crept into the settlers' minds. Elena organized group counseling sessions and meditation exercises to help the crew maintain mental health, emphasizing the importance of solidarity. The Neuralink system's real-time emotional monitoring flagged critical moments, allowing for timely interventions. The technology became a lifeline not just for communication but for emotional survival. Social dynamics grew more complicated as fears of sabotage and mistrust emerged. A faction of the crew demanded a full security lockdown and rigorous background checks, worried that someone within might be responsible or inadvertently complicit. Another group advocated for openness and trust, warning that internal divisions would weaken their collective strength. Elena, as always, navigated these turbulent waters, striving to keep the crew united and focused on solutions rather than blame. Meanwhile, Musk's disappearance pattern continued, causing concern among his team on Earth. His sudden retreats into solitude, always before major announcements or decisions, were both frustrating and mysterious. Yet each time he re-emerged, Musk returned with new strategies, innovative ideas, and renewed determination. His leadership, unconventional and enigmatic, remained the mission's guiding force. The world followed his every move, hoping for answers and reassurance. As the investigation into the radiation anomaly deepened, the settlers uncovered evidence of an unexpected electromagnetic signal embedded within the fluctuations, an encoded message of unknown origin. Decoding efforts began immediately, spearheaded by Earth's top cryptographers and AI specialists. The possibility that this was an intentional communication or warning from an extraterrestrial intelligence sent shockwaves through the scientific community and the public alike. The discovery sparked a heated global debate. Governments, scientists, and religious leaders grappled with the implications. Was humanity truly alone, or had they stumbled upon evidence of cosmic neighbors? How should they respond? The ethical and philosophical questions were as daunting as the technical challenges. Musk advocated for cautious openness, emphasizing that fear should not paralyze humanity's quest for knowledge and exploration. On Mars, the crew faced the dual reality of survival and unprecedented discovery. The encoded signal fueled both hope and dread. Some settlers found comfort in the idea that they were not alone in the universe, while others feared that contact might bring dangers beyond their understanding. The balance between curiosity and caution shaped daily life and decisions. The mission had transcended its original goals, becoming a profound human journey into the unknown. The crisis also revealed the strength and vulnerability of human connection. Elena and Daniel, whose bond had deepened through shared trials, supported each other through moments of doubt and fear. Their partnership symbolized the mission's spirit, resilience forged in adversity. The crew's shared experiences, from near catastrophes to small triumphs, created a fragile but enduring community, a testament to humanity's capacity to adapt and unite. The next phase of the mission would demand courage, wisdom, and perhaps a leap of faith into the unknown. The silence that once surrounded Mars had been broken, not just by human voices but by a signal from the stars. The true journey was just beginning. The encoded signal's mystery consumed every waking moment for the Martian crew and their counterparts on Earth. Day and night, teams of cryptographers, linguists, and AI specialists worked feverishly to unlock its secrets. What began as a series of strange electromagnetic pulses soon revealed patterns that suggested intentionality, deliberate communication crafted with purpose and intelligence. The possibility that humanity was not alone in the universe, that someone or something was reaching out from the abyss, sent waves of excitement and fear rippling across Earth and Mars alike. Elena Vargas, despite the weight of leadership and ongoing challenges on Mars, found herself drawn into the decoding efforts. Her scientific curiosity was ignited by the signal's complexity, and she collaborated closely with Earth's decoding teams via the fragile communication link. The signal was unlike any human language, an intricate weave of mathematical constants, prime numbers, and abstract symbols. As patterns emerged, the message appeared to convey information about energy, physics, and a distant cosmic location, clues that hinted at the sender's origin and knowledge. Yet the message was incomplete, fragmented by noise and interference, like a puzzle missing critical pieces. Musk and his top advisors grappled with the implications. Should they respond? What if the signal was a warning or a test? Would contacting an unknown intelligence bring enlightenment or peril? These questions sparked fierce debates among governments, scientists, and ethicists worldwide. The mission's global significance intensified, casting Mars as the front line in humanity's first cosmic dialogue. On Mars, the psychological impact of the signal's discovery was profound. Some settlers felt a renewed sense of purpose, inspired by the notion that they were ambassadors of Earth to a greater cosmic community. Others were haunted by the uncertainty and potential danger, feeling like pioneers on a precipice. Elena worked tirelessly to maintain balance, organizing discussions and support groups to help the crew process their emotions and fears. The Neuralink system was enhanced with modules designed to foster empathy and reduce anxiety during this tumultuous time. Daniel Hargrove, ever the skeptic, questioned the wisdom of engaging with the unknown. He feared that humanity's eagerness could blind them to risks, that the mission's survival depended on caution above all. His pragmatic stance clashed with Musk's visionary optimism, fueling tension but also productive dialogue. Elena found herself mediating between these viewpoints, striving to channel the crew's energies into careful preparation and open-minded investigation. Meanwhile, the colony continued to battle environmental challenges. The radiation anomaly persisted, fluctuating unpredictably and complicating life support systems. The enhanced shielding and pharmaceutical measures offered some protection, but the risk was far from eliminated. A recent dust storm, one of the worst yet recorded, forced a temporary evacuation of surface operations and reinforced the harshness of the Martian environment. Every success was tempered by the planet's relentless hostility. Earth's political arena grew more volatile. The signal's discovery galvanized international space programs but also heightened competition and distrust. Some nations sought to claim priority in responding or exploiting potential technologies embedded in the message. Musk's SpaceX and its partners pushed for transparent collaboration, advocating that the cosmic message belonged to all humanity. The United Nations convened emergency sessions to draft guidelines on extraterrestrial contact, emphasizing caution, ethics, and collective decision-making. Public reaction was a complex tapestry of wonder, hope, fear, and skepticism. Media outlets buzzed with speculation, from optimistic predictions of new alliances to apocalyptic warnings of alien threats. Religious groups debated the theological implications, some embracing the possibility of cosmic neighbors as a sign of divine design, others viewing it as a test of faith. Educational institutions integrated the unfolding story into curricula, inspiring a new generation of scientists, engineers, and dreamers. On Mars, life continued amid the extraordinary circumstances. Elena and Daniel's partnership, forged through trials and tempered by mutual respect, became a source of strength for the crew. Their debates about the signal's meaning and the mission's future reflected broader questions facing humanity: how to balance curiosity and caution, how to unite diverse perspectives toward common goals. Their evolving relationship underscored the human dimension at the heart of this cosmic endeavor. Late one evening, as the decoding teams made a breakthrough in interpreting the signal's structure, the settlers gathered for a historic live broadcast from Mars. Musk, Elena, and Daniel appeared via video link, addressing billions on Earth. Elon Musk spoke first, his voice steady and resolute. "What we have discovered challenges everything we know about our place in the universe. This signal, this message from the abyss, is an invitation and a warning. It reminds us that exploration is not just about technology or conquest, it's about humility, courage, and unity." Elena followed, sharing insights into the scientific nature of the message. She explained how the signal contained advanced concepts in physics, possibly offering clues to new energy sources or methods of space travel. "It is a cosmic puzzle that pushes us to expand our understanding and imagination," she said. Daniel added a note of caution, urging patience and rigorous analysis. "We must proceed carefully, respecting the unknown and safeguarding our fragile existence here and on Earth." The broadcast sparked a wave of global engagement. People from all walks of life sent messages of hope, support, and inquiry. Social media campaigns flourished, with hashtags like #MessageFromMars and #CosmicDialogue trending worldwide. The mission's narrative transcended science and technology, becoming a shared human story. A quest for connection, meaning, and survival in an infinite universe. The signal's mystery was far from solved, but its impact was undeniable. It had ignited a spark, a message from the abyss that challenged humanity to rise above its divisions, embrace the unknown, and step boldly into the cosmic future awaiting beyond the red horizon. The signal from the abyss had reshaped everything: hope, fear, curiosity, and resolve blended into a new reality for humanity. Mars was no longer just a distant outpost, it was the crucible where human destiny was being forged amid cosmic uncertainty. The encoded message, though still only partially decoded, had opened a gateway to possibilities that stretched far beyond technology or exploration. It touched the core of what it meant to be human. Elena Vargas stood in the main habitat's observation dome, gazing at the vast red landscape illuminated by the weak Martian sun. The silence was profound, broken only by the hum of life support systems and distant echoes of shifting sands. She thought about the journey, the lost moments, the fractures, the triumphs, and the raw humanity that had sustained them. The colony was fragile, vulnerable, and yet more alive than ever. Elon Musk's leadership had been unconventional, sometimes frustrating, but always visionary. His mysterious disappearances into solitude before critical junctures had become part of the mission's rhythm, a reminder that even the greatest minds needed space to wrestle with uncertainty. Each return brought new clarity, new strategy, new hope. His belief in humanity's potential had carried them through darkest moments. Daniel Hargrove, once a skeptic, had grown into a pillar of strength and pragmatism. His practical solutions had saved lives and shaped the colony's infrastructure, but it was his willingness to embrace uncertainty that marked his evolution. He and Elena had forged a bond that was both professional and deeply personal, a testament to human connection in the face of adversity. The decoding of the signal advanced steadily. The message revealed concepts beyond human technology, methods of energy manipulation, hints at faster-than-light communication, and a star map pointing to a distant system. The implications were staggering. They were receiving knowledge from an intelligence far beyond Earth's reach, an intelligence that had chosen to reach out across the cosmos. The message was neither purely scientific nor purely linguistic, it was art, philosophy, and science intertwined. On Earth, the discovery united nations, companies, and communities. A new global coalition formed to prepare humanity for potential contact, sharing knowledge and resources. The United Nations passed the Cosmic Communication Accord, establishing ethical guidelines for interstellar interaction, transparency, and collective decision-making. Musk's SpaceX became a key player in these efforts, a symbol of private enterprise aligned with global interests. Despite progress, uncertainty remained. Would the senders respond to a human message? What would they want? Could humanity handle the consequences of such contact? These questions weighed heavily on every decision. On Mars, Elena led efforts to prepare a carefully crafted response, a message conveying Earth's diversity, hopes, and willingness to learn. The Neuralink system was adapted to help translate human emotions and intentions, ensuring the reply was as authentic and nuanced as possible. Then, one day, an unexpected breakthrough came, not from Earth, but from within the colony. A young engineer named Mia Chen discovered a way to enhance the colony's radiation shields using principles gleaned from the signal's partial instructions. The new materials and designs promised to drastically improve safety, offering a tangible link between the mysterious message and human survival. The breakthrough reinvigorated the crew, symbolizing the merging of cosmic knowledge and human ingenuity. As the colony prepared to send its response into the void, the settlers gathered for a ceremony broadcast live to Earth. Elon Musk, Elena, Daniel, and Mia spoke with a shared voice that embodied the mission's spirit. Musk said, "This is not just a message, it is our promise, to seek understanding, to embrace the unknown, and to stand united as one species." Elena added, "We send this message knowing the risks, but also the profound potential for connection." Daniel reminded the world, preparation and caution remain vital, but fear will never stop progress. Mia concluded with hope, science and hope are our guides. Together, we step into a new dawn. The signal's mystery remained, but its impact was undeniable. Humanity had moved from isolation to interstellar conversation, from division to unity, from fear to courage. The Martian colony was no longer just a survival experiment, it was a beacon of human potential and cosmic possibility. As Elena looked out at the red horizon, she understood that this story was not ending but beginning anew. Mars was the cradle of a future where humanity dared to reach beyond its limits, where love, sacrifice, and hope intertwined with technology and discovery. Life was indeed full of surprises, but love for each other and for the unknown, would always lead the way. Hit subscribe and leave a comment with where you're watching from. This story might just spark a new beginning. What's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough?